Hello, everybody. It's Friday, January 27th. Wow. Welcome to Conspiracy or Not. Here we come, number 24. Joined, as always, with Aaron. He's having some technical issues with his audio right now, so he'll be joining us soon. And, of course, we have our other lovely cohort this week, Amy. Hey, Amy, how are you?
I'm hanging in here. How about yourself?
I'm good. Another week, in the in the new world order.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! So, we haven't got much planned tonight. We're gonna take some comments from the chat. It's more or less going to be a question period, just sort of an open chat this week. Last week we've had a couple of really awesome guests on, and it's sent our heads into a tailspin. So we just need a week to relax a bit and get some input from the audience. Watch the shows the last couple of weeks. Can tune in and ask any questions that they might or concern. If you have any comments you want to make about the guests, what the guests were talking about, or if you have any questions that you want us to ask the guest next time that we have one of them on, either Ole or Joseph Farrell. So you can leave a comment in the chat. How you doing, Aaron?
I'm still working on getting this my headphone set operating on this other computer. And are you guys still getting an echo when I unmute my mic?
Let's see.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Well, you guys chat away while I figure this out. I'm using my wife's computer tonight because I left my I was doing a job out of town, about an hour and a half away from my house, just so everybody knows. And sure enough, I took my computer out there because there was no cell service. So I downloaded stuff to listen to. And on my way home today, got all the way home, and I realized that I left the power cord to my computer. And so I'm having to use my wife's computer tonight. So sorry for the echo, sorry for the troubles, but I'll try to get this worked out in a few minutes.
Good.
Yeah, we'll hang and discuss the universe.
So I don't even know where to start.
Really?
There's so much to talk about. Probably just go into the election and all the right bullshit paradigm that we're seeing.
Yes. I sit there watching what Trump's doing and thinking, talk about mixed messages. Let's see. We're going to scratch the TPP, but we're going to approve the pipeline. And, it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he approved gave the go-ahead for the Dakota pipeline, of all things.
Yep.
Like double-edged sword here,
Yep.
And of course, he's like Obama gave. What did he give? 200 million or
221 million
to Palestine.
Palestine, yes.
And Trump is against that now. So. And he wants to stop that.
Yeah,
so
I don't. It's just all getting.
Apparently, his administration. He's surrounding himself with neocons and just traitor kind of people, just people you can't trust at all.
Yeah, well,
Sessions and that other guy with the long hair. He's known to be a real piece of work. So. You just can't trust anyone. I don't trust Pence at all.
I don't trust. Well, it's not that I don't trust them. I already have this good idea that it doesn't matter whether they're trustworthy. They've got their script. They're going to deliver it.
Sorry to interrupt you guys. Are you still getting an echo when I unmute?
Well, let's find out. Yeah, just a little bit. We are.
I basically just turned the computer volume down. I can't figure out how to get the headphones to work here, and I'm just messing
That
around with
sounds
the
better.
volume controls. So
That's much better. You can leave it like that.
I mean, I can turn it down a little bit more. It's a laptop, so maybe it's just feeding back into itself. The speaker or the microphone in the computer is picking up the speakers on the computer. So
as long as you can hear us.
Yeah.
Well, I can hear you. I have to listen closely. I've got the volume way down. Are you getting any echo back on you?
A little bit.
You got a pair of headphones kicking around?
Well,
Other
I've got,
like
yeah, I've got these Logitechs, and I'm just working on trying to get them working with this computer. So I'll go ahead and mute, and you guys go back to what you're talking about, and I'll try.
No, we can hear you good now. So I'm not hearing an echo. But anyways,
the echo you were hearing was when you speak. My speakers off of this computer are feeding back into the microphone on this computer.
That's what it is.
So, I mean, are you getting any echo at any point when you or I talk?
Yeah,
Amy?
when I do.
Amy, sound good for you?
Yeah. Well, I barely hear my echo at this point.
Yeah, I only hear it a bit now. So. Anyway.
Well, I don't want it to wind up on the video. That would be terrible. So give me a few more minutes. You guys go back to what you were talking about.
Okay.
So yeah, Donald Trump, eh? Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard a good joke this week. Here, I'm going to tell you guys this joke.
Oh, good. I love jokes.
Why isn't there a Mexican Olympic team?
I give up. Why?
Because anyone there who can run, jump, or swim. Just kidding.
I think I might have missed something, but that's all right.
Why don't the Mexicans have an Olympic team?
Yeah, I heard that part.
Because anyone who can run, jump, or swim is already in the U.S.
Okay, that's what I didn't hear. I didn't hear the final line. Okay, I'd say that's fair.
You hear about when somebody tried to assassinate Trump, and his Secret Service agent said, "Donald, duck."
That was a good one.
Anyway, so I had to get that out of my system. Anyways, Trump is, I really like Trump. I like him as a person, right? He's a bold guy. He's got balls, right? He speaks his mind, right? But he always shits in his own punch bowl, right?
Well, yeah.
He's got some great things. Okay, fine. We're going to bring jobs back. We're going to close the borders so it's not all chaotic, right? The ICE people who are working down in the southern border are happy about this because they've been their hands were tied. They weren't allowed to stop anyone, right?
Right.
Their hands were basically tied down there, and the regulations that Obama set in there for the immigration, right? They couldn't do anything, but now at least they're happy that they can actually do their job now, right?
Yeah.
So I agree. If anybody's a criminal, they don't deserve to be here because people who are not criminals are having a tough time getting in. Why should criminals be allowed?
Well,
they should be deported back.
I agree.
Right?
Well,
now it gets pretty sensitive because you look at families, right? Because somebody's come over the border, let's say 8 years ago, 6 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or even 5 years ago. And now they've built a family, right?
Yep.
You know what I mean? And some people, they don't want their kids to have to be ripped away from where they live now, right? Back to Mexico, right?
Right.
It's kind of not fair on the kids, right?
No.
Because they didn't do anything wrong. But I mean, the onus is that the word I'm looking for? Is on the parents.
Yeah.
For knowingly being undocumented and knowingly have a child in a country as an undocumented citizen. But there isn't really you can't, if you're undocumented, there is no laws based around that, right?
Right,
Or
right.
rules, right? Like you can't have kids and stuff, right?
Well, my thought, because I'm a planetarist. I just made that up. I am supportive of humanity on our planet. And I don't really consent to walls, and I don't consent to accounting for human energy. Which, if we got rid of accounting for human energy, i.e., money, then we wouldn't be worrying about jobs being taken away, because we would all be living as richly as we choose, and there wouldn't be any scarcity, and nobody would be concerned about it.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm coming from.
Right. I mean, Trump has some good intentions when it comes to jobs. He wants to bring the jobs back.
Trump
right?
says that's what he wants.
That's what he says. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, Screech, hold on a second.
Uh-huh.
That's what he says. But yeah, I mean, but you don't really have, I still kind of hold it that, if you don't have their word, and then you have, like, and it's like, you hope that they will, but that's that old hope and change, right?
Yes, yes. The thing is, I've given up on that system. It promotes psychopaths. It it's controlled. It's scripted. It's got an agenda. We're dealing with a corporation, and that corporation is not owned by us. And that corporation has one obligation only, and that is to make a profit for its investors, who are the psychopaths in control. And I think we should just quit that system, quit consenting to it, saying, no, I'm to consent to better. And, I've been running around telling people about better.
Right.
So,
they can say, oh yeah, we're going to audit the Fed, right? So anybody can say that.
yeah.
But they hold no scrutiny to anyone. Nobody can audit the Fed. Even though they say, yeah, this,
Well, yeah, because it's a private corporation.
It's a private corporation.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. So even if they say that, I want to audit the Fed and let's open up let's open the books. Right?
Yep.
They can't.
No, they can't.
Major blowback from that too.
Yeah. Well, I think we should just really work really hard on getting free energy out, because really that is the key to removing psychopaths from control.
Yeah.
As long as we have to account for our energy, added into the system, we are slaves. We are their slaves. And,
that's right.
And so, let's just stop consenting to this insanity.
Yeah.
Because, yeah,
I'm just afraid of starving. I'm afraid of being without anything. You know what I mean? Like,
well,
in order to non-comply, you have to just remove yourself entirely from the whole.
Not necessarily. The first thing we can do is just quit consenting to the government. We can still use the money as we need to. But if we will start, if I had money, I'd be working on getting that free energy out there. I know it's there. My dad talked about it a lot when I was a kid, and then it went poof. into black projects.
I think the whole system would have to collapse before we would switch right to free energy and alternative energy and foods. Right?
Well, I disagree. I think what would happen is that if we started getting the free energy out and just kept going more or less as we've been going without consenting to the government, the control mind, what would happen is things would get cheaper and cheaper as the cost of energy is removed. And we should then try to focus on getting robots out into the open, right? I mean, not out into the open, right, but out doing the things that nobody wants to do. Don't take over people's jobs who are doing what they love to do. But if you don't have enough people doing something you need done, put the robots in, right? And I think if we get enough of us that know the plan and work together on it and put it together, that eventually what would happen is that things would become so cheap that, I'm not going to bother collecting that penny for your house. It's more effort than it's worth, That's where it will get to, and we'll eventually, have the abundance of the planet flowing to all of us without the artificial scarcity that money systems create. And we all will be able to live very richly and happily. That's how I have it worked. But we got to get the free energy out there and the knowledge of what we can do with it. And that's why I keep talking about it.
I'm scared of that because, the robots, they could, like, what they're doing now is they're almost creating their own thoughts and stuff. I don't know what movie that was.
Well, there's a difference between AI and a robot.
Play came alive, right? It became so sophisticated that it could think for itself.
Well, I'm going to guess that they're hoping for that, but I'm not really sure that they will necessarily ever get there. I think consciousness is something that isn't something that we can impart to something, if you see what I'm saying.
Right.
I could be wrong, but I doubt it. It's kind of like people keep saying, well, when we'll have consciousness when things get complex enough. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, we certainly have the complexity of a cat's brain going. They're conscious. You can tell. They see things. They're aware of things. But we're not seeing consciousness in our stuff. Not real consciousness. We can.
Well, no, it's because the corporations.
Pseudo consciousness,
because
pretend
corporations run everything. Like Ole, whatever his name is in the chat here, Olelo. He says corporation always wants to take every penny they can from us, and that's right. They're not going to go down.
Very true, but if you don't,
I mean, like, they're not going to go down without a fight, right? Because it's their livelihood, it's their whole lives being destroyed. And
well, the thing is,
not only that, like a legacy, right? Family legacies.
Well,
right?
Yeah,
like,
I understand.
So
I understand, that stuff.
Real complex, right?
So
within that area, right? Those people won't go down like Bullwind, all these big mega corporations. I mean, you have to take them down before we could get out of this into free energy.
I think that if we manage to get free energy out,
they built such a big
grassroots. Right now, not many people are working on it. Not many people know about it. They've been taught it doesn't exist. They've been given fake science. I mean, Einsteinian physics was promoted because it did not predict the energy in the ether. And so you have just a few people that are working on the free energy, and anytime somebody is successful, they move in very rapidly and either try to buy it out or they'll set the people up for blackmail,
Right.
or they'll start making threats. And if still they don't let up on their work, then they'll make good on their threats, either by ruining them or killing them. That's
Hey,
what
you guys,
they do.
Sorry to interrupt, but I want to do a quick test. Do you guys have an echo when I speak or only when you speak?
Only when we speak.
Hold on.
Okay. What I may have to do is just constantly mute and unmute my microphone because funny thing, when I opened up the other another tab and I went to Ian's channel to view the live chat on his channel, all the audio came through on these headphones that I'm using,
Right.
but while simultaneously the live chat in the Google Hangout was actually coming out of the speakers on the computer, so I was hearing a delay. When I listen to the show on Ian's channel, there's like a 10 or so second delay, and I hear that in my headphones.
Right.
Right.
Well, I have a question. Did you go to Control Panel and tell it to just use the
headphones?
The headphones?
Yeah. I
did open up the volume controls and I did select the headphones. I do have them working. The light is on. It did download whatever driver it needed to download, and they work. And I can hear the show, but only on Ian's channel, which is actually about a 10-second delay from the actual conversation. So it's not going to do me much good to do it that way.
Right. Well, yeah.
I don't hear an echo right now.
That's because I keep muting my microphone as soon as I'm done speaking.
Right. Well, that seems to work.
Yes, it's working.
It's working.
So,
well, it's going to keep me really busy. It's almost like speaking on a CB radio. I've got to click and then unclick every time I'm ready to say something.
Yep. I understand that problem. So.
Okay, so have you guys heard that there's like this somewhat of a worldwide? It may not be huge yet, but it's growing tremendously. There's a major backlash against Soros and his foundations and all the nefarious shit that they've been up to lately. Have you heard anything about that?
It was what country was that? Lithuania, I think.
It was Hungary, which, by the way, Soros is Hungarian born, and so I'm not sure. I don't remember exactly, but I've heard something about a week ago on this subject, and then I just heard something the other day, and I don't remember exactly where I heard it. So all I know is I'm hearing that there's let's see, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think it was in Hungary. The government or the president was they're attempting to shut down his foundations in that country.
They want to look into his foundation. Yeah, they want to open an investigation into it. So yeah, I think I'm going to look up what country that was, but I heard all about that. Yeah. I don't know much more about it. It was just one country that was trying to get an investigation into his open, what is it called? Open society? Open source?
I hadn't heard about that particular piece of information, but it doesn't come as a surprise.
Yeah. Do you know a video that
I heard they were actually trying to shut down his foundations in that country, and again, I want to say it was Hungary, which to me sounds strange since I'm pretty sure is Hungarian born.
No, I haven't heard much about it really.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't heard either.
Just saw some. I think it was.
Are you looking for an article? Because I was about to, and then you said you were gonna. So have you found anything yet?
Can't find anything right now.
Well, I found an article that says Hungary set to turn screws on Soros-backed NGOs. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, that's probably one of them. Yeah, I think, like I said, I thought it was Hungary that was going after his foundations.
Yeah, and Hungary Prime Minister is blaming him for the refugees.
Well, of course, it was an engineered. It was all engineered.
Well,
in a few minutes, maybe a little bit shortly here, I want to, as long as the audio goes through, I want to play some John Rappaport, and it's about a 20 or so minute presentation that is pretty eye-opening, and it's worth listening to the whole thing. You know, I usually only play like excerpts, but this one here is worth listening to the whole thing. It's pretty remarkable. One of his recent presentations that he gave on Fade to Black.
Awesome.
Right. So why don't we make that the halftime break? We'll put the video on and then.
Well, it's really something that we all should listen to. I've heard it already twice. I want you guys to really listen and literally pay attention to what he is saying, because it's kind of important, and then, you know, we can discuss it as usual.
Okay, that sounds like a plan to me.
Is it going to echo back, though, if you play it?
I don't think so. If you're not getting an echo while I'm speaking, basically what I'll do is I'll do like you'll normally do. I'll pull up YouTube on my phone and I'll use my Bluetooth speaker to play into the computer so you guys can hear it. And as long as I'm speaking, then the microphone is picking up, you know, one piece of audio. But when you guys are speaking, the computer speaker is feeding back into the computer microphone. I think that's why you're getting the echo.
Right.
Got it.
Got it.
So have you guys also heard that Trump, I just heard this literally minutes before we went on the show here. There are 4 people very, very close to Trump that are registered to vote in 2 states each. His daughter, his son-in-law, Steve Bannon, and the press secretary, was it Mike Spicer or
Spicer, yeah.
Is it Mike Spicer?
I think so. I'm not sure. Spicer.
Spicer, the press secretary.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever his name is.
Yeah. Harold.
Well, I heard it's not illegal to be registered in all 50 states if you want to be. Just don't only vote in one. I believe that's what I heard. I don't know, but yeah, it's kind of odd to start. You know, unless they can prove that these people that were registered in more than one state voted more than once, I don't see that they really have anything.
I imagine maybe if you're somebody who travels a lot, maybe, you know, they would allow you to be registered in up to all 50 states. You know, just in case you don't know where you're going to be when you vote. I imagine that might be a reason. But yeah, well, I'm pretty sure it is illegal to vote more than once. So there.
Yes, it is illegal to vote more than once.
Well, yeah, definitely.
And also Trump has surrounded himself with no less than 9 Goldman Sachs cronies.
I know, like he's surrounding himself with a bunch of traitors, and it's
Zionists, warmongers, and psychopaths. Yes.
Yeah, like Zionists and all sorts. Yeah.
Okay, in all fairness, and I want to make it clear, I am not a Trump supporter, certainly not a Hillary supporter, but in all fairness, I think it's worth saying, if you were let's assume for the sake of argument that Trump is sincere and he wants to quote unquote drain the swamp or whatever, right? For a moment, assuming that that is true and his intentions are sincere, which I doubt, because he saw John F. Kennedy get shot in broad daylight, so he knows the game. But assuming for a moment that he's sincere, you would actually have to support. I mean, you would actually need to surround yourself with people who know the inside. I think it was Michael Steer who said that these Goldman Sachs guys, they know the pressure points on Goldman Sachs. So, and by the way, the Goldman Sachs people that he surrounded himself with are somewhat pariahs in that, establishment. They're not necessarily, and I have no verification. I'm only going what this guy Mike Steer had to say. That they're sort of pariahs, and like he said, you would need someone who knows the pressure points on Goldman Sachs, or the ins and outs, so to speak. So I mean, it almost makes sense in a way that if Trump were sincere, he would actually need some of those people on his side.
Well, would you need that many?
Yeah,
and second of all, I have to ponder how many of these were part of their script was to go be a pariah so that they could get in and they could say, oh, but they're a pariah.
Bullying.
I would not put that past them.
Very good point. That's a very good point, Amy. And if you remember our conversation with Dr. Joseph Farrell last week, we talked briefly about the Hitler bomb plot, which he suggests and he thinks that it was basically a false flag so that for the purpose of pretending to execute those who were involved and those who supported it, because at the end of the war, by the way, Operation Valkyrie, which was the Hitler bomb plot, remember that was very, very near the end of the war. So the Nazis realized that they were losing, and what they wanted to do was they wanted some of their high-ranking officials to basically disappear. And as Joseph Farrell puts it in his interviews and in his book, he says basically you don't go looking for dead Nazis. The Nazi hunters after the war, they went hunting down all these ex-Nazis and executed them, and the Nuremberg trials and all that stuff. So if Hitler were to publicly execute, or at least say out, in public, look, we had a plot, blah blah blah. They tried to kill me. These people were involved. We've executed all of them. We had trials. They're all dead, and let's all move on. Blah blah blah. After the war is done and over with, the Allied forces would not go searching for those particular people who they assumed were already executed and dead. So I think that's a very good point. And like you said, the Goldman Sachs people, maybe they were set up to be pariahs so that they could then be placed in this particular position where they are now. And it's a big double bluff.
Yep. I can't say it isn't.
And you also make another good point. I mean, why would he need 9 of them?
Exactly. 2, maybe 3, that should be sufficient, not 9.
Trojan horse is what you're saying.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we just can't put anything past these people now, can we?
Absolutely not.
You got to think of it this way. Zbigniew Brzezinski said there's a great, is that how I pronounce it? Is it?
It's a big
Nev or something?
Brzezinski.
Zbigniew. He said there's a awakening happening throughout the world, and they don't know how to deal with that great awakening, right? So you go back to that old quote, and it says the only way to lead the opposition is to join it, right?
Yes.
So what they could be doing is Trump is a joker, right? Where he's being
You're cutting out.
On the other edge of the sword, he's stabbing you in the back, right?
Yes.
Which
Yes,
is
exactly.
kind of what I think is going on. Everybody's on the Trump train.
Yeah, get everybody behind him, and then he
set
walks
for
off the
collision.
cliff.
Yeah, that train is set for a certain collision, right?
Yep.
I'm sure of it, and especially with the brainwashed zombies running around screaming and crying, and about the losing the election and all that.
Well, that a lot of that's manufactured. I'm going to tell you that. Yeah, there were a
going
lot
to
of.
Yeah, it's just going to add to the chaos. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, yes,
add more to the chaos that
exactly.
created. And then everybody will be against that one thing, right?
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? So then when it does happen, everybody will be against it, whether you're on the left or the right.
Yep.
You see?
And
then,
meanwhile, the dirty bird behind the wings is wiggling his puppet wing feathers out.
Right, and the puppet masters are sitting in their temples, and they're watching it on their big screen wall TV and laughing their asses off while they sip cocktails and
exactly
have strippers and lap dancers
and whatever
else these
and
people
probably
do.
more ghastly things.
Probably children as well.
Yeah. Yes, I was just going to say something on the order of the Pizzagate.
Yeah. So we know their games. We know what could happen because nothing is out of the realm of impossibilities when it comes to rich people. So
true.
I hope not. I hope for everyone's sakes that he does do some good for the base. I mean, it's still debt slaves, but at least back to a solid base. Right?
I'm
within right now.
I don't know. I get this very, very strong feeling that he might be possibly being set up to be assassinated. I mean, put the assassinated in quotes.
That's right.
Because his role on the stage will be over, and he'll go off the stage and live the rest of his life doing something else.
Yeah.
But
I get liberals, like. Go ahead, Amy.
I was just going to say, it just seems to me that might be what is being set up, especially everything that he's doing that looks right. Yeah. I'm looking at the TPP and thinking they got some other deal in the back room that we don't know a lot about, is my guess. That's probably worse than that. But he can make a big show of the TPP and, oh, look, aren't I great? I'm getting rid of the TPP. But we know that.
Yeah, it's dangling a carrot.
Yeah, really, that it has to be a meaningless thing, really, because he wouldn't really do that.
Right. I don't know. He'd be the biggest traitor, ever, right? He'd be the Benedict Arnold of the.
Yes.
Of them all. You know what I mean? Like, it would be the biggest, huge deception that we'd ever encounter, right? Because we all know presidents just say what you want to get in, right? But he's different than that, though. He's different than any other president ever. He's not a politician.
Well,
right? He's a guy we watched on TV before, right?
Yeah.
And everybody sort of looks up to him because they admire what he's done, right?
Yeah.
Whereas nobody ever that I know has been a president I ever looked up to them for what they've done.
I never looked up to Trump for what he's done. I always thought he was a creepy dude.
Well, yeah, I mean, but
look up to him.
I admire him, of being successful, right?
No, I didn't even admire him for that.
He got a nice boost in the beginning from his father, of course. But
yeah, it's not like he, if he was an honest, hardworking individual that started down here where we are and managed to put together something awesome, I might have some respect for him. But he likes to pretend like he really succeeded on his own, but he didn't. I'm sorry. You got $1 million to play with when you first start out as an adult. I just can't see that.
Yeah, he went through some scandals and stuff too. So
a lot of them. So no, this is why. And remember, none of us selected the two selections that we had to choose from, even if our votes did count.
No, exactly.
It's like we were saying, you've got this evil piece of junk to vote for, or this evil piece of junk. Take your pick. Figure out which one is the evilest of the evil.
Lesser of two evils, yeah, exactly.
It's like, oh, gee, no.
Yeah, it's the illusion of choice, right?
Absolutely, the illusion of choice. That's what keeps us registering to vote, because
that's right. When we
register to vote, see, when you register anything, you are giving it to the king, state, rulers, whatever, in exchange for a privilege. And in the case of voting, you are giving your sovereignty, yourself, to the state in exchange for the privilege of wasting time in a booth. That's what you're doing. And then once you've given yourself to them, they can do with you as they see fit. It's not wise to register anything.
Aaron, you want to chime in on anything? Still with us?
I don't know. His icon's still hanging around, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's muted. He's probably bashing his head against the computer there,
probably
trying to get it to work.
Anyways, yeah.
So yeah, I hope he returns soon, because he helps fill in the gaps. He's good at that. He's very good at that. It's like, it's kind of.
Did you ever see the Wayne's World?
Oh, ages ago. I barely remember any of it.
Where Wayne wasn't there with him to play or something like that, and he was standing there all by himself. Garth was standing there all by himself. He's like, hi. He's all nervous because he doesn't have his partner Wayne with him.
Right. Okay. I vaguely recall, but yeah, it's kind of like that. Maybe let's just start calling him Wayne.
Yeah.
Hey, Wayne, get back on the show.
Yeah.
We don't know what to do with ourselves here. I guess, sort of, kind of.
I don't know. We didn't really have much to talk about this week, anyway. It's just
it's kind
an
of
open chat, the chill chat this week, and talk about whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever comes to mind.
Yep.
So, do you, Amy? Do you know Rosa Corey?
Name sounds vaguely familiar.
Ring a bell?
Very, very, very distant. Give me some data.
I'll tell you one thing. She's got really white hair, really long white hair. It's very distinctive. I'm going to show you. She wrote a book called Behind the Green Mask, UN Agenda 21.
Okay. I think I know who you're talking about. I'm not highly familiar, but yeah, I'm pretty sure I've run into her stuff. And hasn't she done some YouTube talks?
Yeah, she does. She does some interviews. I think Carrie Cassidy had interviewed her before, I believe. I'm not sure. But I know she's done a bunch of... She goes to a lot of these conferences and stuff as well. But she was basically... she's a really good person to look up if you want to learn about the UN Agenda 21.
Yeah. Right? What was her name again?
Rosa Corey. And it's spelled R-E.
C-O-R.
Koire.
Oh, Korie. Okay, maybe if I
Koire.
O-I-R-E. Oh, okay. Got it. Yes, okay. Now that I've got the image of her up on my computer, yes, I've listened to quite a few of her things. I never knew her name, I guess. I'm really bad with names. I mean, I'm just really bad with names. So
she's got some great information.
Yeah, she's great. Yes, yes, and I learned.
I'd like to have her on the show. I'd love to talk to her about.
I'll see if I can get in touch with her.
So she's a retired forensic commercial real estate appraiser specializing in eminent domain valuation.
Yep.
Yeah. Her 28-year career as a district branch chief for the California Department of Transportation has culminated in exposing the impacts of sustainable development on a private property rights and individual liberty. So she's into exposing the impacts of sustainable development, quote unquote, right, on private property rights and individual liberties. So she's calling it out that the UN's main agenda behind UN Agenda 21, right, is to remove the property rights of people and take away their liberties by doing that. Right?
Yep.
He says that it's all about when you take away property rights of people, then they all have to migrate somewhere else, and that centralizes the power, right? It centralizes, right? Just like how they want to compact everybody into cities.
Yes, yes. Turn us into sardines.
You take away the property rights of people that live out in rural communities, and they're forced to move to the city because they can't comply with the imposed and things, right?
Right.
So they can't even live where they've been for, 100, their family's been for 100 years and stuff. The regulations. Right?
Yep.
I also watched this video where they were showing these new technologies in green, living green and stuff, right? And like, solar panels, and it was like a conditioning that was outside, and it was all, low impact environmental stuff. But it costs about $6,000, right?
Right.
To do this, and they have this initiative that they actually want to make mandatory. And if you can't afford to pay the $6,000 or whatever it is to get this stuff for your home, you won't comply with the regulations that are going to be put in place, right?
Right.
Therefore, you're going to have to leave your home or to get the money to do it, right?
Yep.
So they're really pushing hard right now on this, but it was being exposed in this meeting I watched, and I should try to find the link for you guys again, and I'll let you look at it because it's really interesting. It's being exposed at this city council meeting where there's something called ICLEI, okay?
Oh, yes, I know about ICLEI.
So it's the International Committee of Local Environmental Initiatives. The International Committee, Committee for Local Environmental Initiatives.
Yes.
Okay, so right in itself, it's an oxymoron. Yep. International Committee for Local
yes.
Environmental Issues. So right in itself, it's communist on its surface.
Yep.
Because it's telling you that the international community is saying what's good for you locally, right?
Yeah. It's evil. It's part of the.
And they wanted them to refuse to join and renew their membership with this. It's a non-governmental organization too, right? It's an NGO. It's not funded by the government, and they're pushing things into the local communities, right, based on their agendas, right?
Right.
And local communities are going along with it because it's like coming from the UN, you see?
Yep.
So they're all on board with it. Oh, they know best, right? Blah, 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 right? And they're pushing these agendas through at a local level, right? To make you, A, one, get out of your car, B, get out of your home and start living stack and pack. That's why they're introducing coffin apartments now. Have you seen them? Move them around from location to location. It's like a little box. It's like a, I don't know, what was it, 10 feet long and 3 feet high or something, not even.
Yeah.
Just the size you can crawl in, go to, go in, lie down, and go to sleep.
Right, right.
And then I'll slide in. And then there's like a central kitchen and bathroom in the building, right? But all of these things just slide right in. You just go up into it and go to sleep.
Yep. Oh yeah, I've seen those. It's like I don't know that I want to live that way.
No, who wants to live like that? But that's what their future outlook is. They want us like that. Right?
Yes, they do. What they want is compliant and complacent robotic slaves.
Right.
They want us
just smart enough to work the machines.
Yes, as
it's like George Carlin's.
Yep. You know, and to just shut up and just not think until we have to think a little bit to you know.
Yeah.
Oh, it's really sad.
So it says here, Rosa Corey, okay?
I'm sorry?
Rosa Corey is the executive director of the Post Sustainability Institute.
Yes.
She's a forensic commercial real estate appraiser specializing in eminent domain valuation. Her nearly 30 years of experience analyzing land use and property value enabled her to recognize the planning revolution sweeping the country. While fighting to stop a huge redevelopment project in her city, she researched the corporate, political, and financial interests behind it and found UN Agenda 21, impacting every aspect of our lives. UN 2021, Agenda 21 / sustainable development, right, is a corporate manipulation using the green mask of environmental concern to forward a globalist plan.
Yep.
Using the green mask of environmental concern, what do they call it? A false crisis to forward a global plan.
Yes. Well, it's like the, global warming.
Right.
That's sort of falling flat at this point, but
well, yeah. Well, they even have to change the name, so that's
and then it was climate change. But even that, people are going, that's what you used to call global warming. Yeah, we're not falling for it. Yeah. You just want to tax the air we breathe. We're not interested.
Aaron, you still there with us?
Yeah, I'm here. I had to basically leave and come back just to get the sound to return because I did something with the audio setting and I disabled her computer speakers on this computer. And then when I couldn't get the headphones to work, I re-enabled the computer speakers and then I really wasn't getting any sound. And then when I left and came back, everything seemed to be okay. So why don't you guys say something real quick and let me know if you're getting an echo. I'm going to leave my microphone unmuted.
Okay, yes, definitely echo.
You're still getting an echo?
Not as bad though.
Well, I've got the volume all the way down. I can,
I don't hear it.
I can just keep muting my microphone when I'm not speaking.
Pain in the tail end, but it works.
Go into your sound settings and then go where your playback is, and then make sure the default is disabled and just your headphones are on.
Really, Ian, I've been through that for the last almost this entire hour here. So, I mean, that's pretty much all I've been doing while I'm listening to you guys is trying to figure out how to get the headphones to work and how to disable the onboard speakers and get it all to work. And it's just not working out very well. So sorry about that. I literally, I've already been through all the controls.
It's not that bad. We only hear a bit of an echo here and there.
Yeah, it's not a horrific echo, just enough to notice.
I don't hear it right now.
So one more time, you don't hear an echo when I'm speaking, right? Right now, you're not hearing an echo, but only when you're speaking, yes?
Correct.
Okay, well then I'll just mute my microphone when I'm not talking.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, you can unmute now and talk. Yeah, I wanted to get her on if we could in the future. She'd be really interesting.
I have tried to contact her through her site, but for some reason it's telling me, please correct the error, and the error is my email address, which is my email address.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on there, so I just sent off a tweet to her on Twitter. So we'll see where that goes, but hopefully we can get her on. I'd love to get her on. I love her work.
Yeah.
I love listening to her. She's very cogent and very organized, and it's like I love listening to people like that.
No, she's got great information. She's
absolutely.
So yeah, that's one person I was thinking of, and I don't know. Just,
a friend of mine was asking if we would be interested in having any prepper type people on the show. I don't know if that would be something that we would want to do something on or not.
Sure, why not?
Okay, I'll let him know, and I'll see what he can come up with. He says he has some pretty well-known friends in that community, and we'll see what we can do on that. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
So what are the people
totally down with that? We can have an entire hour or two, or possibly even a whole show on the concept of prepping, things to prep for, what kind of scenarios to be prepping for, what kind of things to have as a prepper, what kind of things to not have, what's useful, what's not useful. That can be a whole topic in itself.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I figured that we could probably get some of that information out. I think that would be awesome. So I'll let him know, and he'll see what he can drag in for us. Bad choice of words there. I'll see who he can provide for us. There, that's a better way of saying it. Oh dear. All right.
So it says here, you were mentioning this Bana Alabed.
Yes.
Letter to Trump. Seven-year-old Aleppo girl known worldwide for tweets from Aleppo has written an open letter to Donald Trump.
Yeah, I first of all, I'm uncertain whether it's really her that's been doing that tweeting.
Yeah, that's more likely just propaganda.
And number two, I think that there's a good possibility that her there she is. Her letter to Trump was written, it says, with help from her parents. Like, they wrote it and said, here, honey, see if you can read this. As far as I can tell.
You must do something for the children of Syria because they are like you and your children and deserve peace like you.
Yes.
She's now in Turkey.
So basically, in order to save the children, we've got to go in and kill a bunch of people, right? I mean, is that what? Huh?
Yeah, that's pretty much what they're trying to
We've got to
sell
go
you.
kill some people.
Yeah, that's right. We still got to get boots on the ground.
Yeah, no, this is propaganda.
Totally.
Get your
Well,
waiting boots
look
on,
who
I
it's coming
tell you.
from. It's coming from the known liars themselves, right? So,
Yes, BBC and CNN had a piece on her. So I mean, what more do we need?
yeah, there you go. You got both of the CIA and the MI6.
Yep,
channel.
we've got the intelligence agencies who write the scripts to begin with. So
yeah, so that's as far as that gets for me.
Yep. I just found it interesting that, I mean, because golly gee, if you didn't know any better, your heartstrings would be pulled like crazy.
Well, they did it before, right? With the Syrian boy on the beach, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes. That was fake.
Yep.
It wasn't even real.
Yep.
And the guy was a known child trafficker. The guy that was his dad.
I tell you.
What's going on here?
Well, they're trying to feed stories to the sheep.
The pictures didn't make any sense either. Why was the child moved for two different pictures?
Yeah, really. Well,
they took one of it laying there in the water, and then they pulled it up on the beach and then took another picture of him.
Yep.
I don't know. It just didn't seem to make sense. So I knew right away it was kind of fake. And then I heard the story, and that didn't make any sense. So.
Yep. Well, they it's like virtually everything that you see in the quote news, unquote, because it's all,
agenda.
Yes, it is.
They're all working from the Bilderberg group meeting and saying, this is what we're going to do this year.
We got to snag their emotions this way. We've got to snag their emotions that way so we can drag them along. And, I'm really glad to see that there seems to be a fair number of us who are going, no, not buying it.
And more and more people are not buying it, especially with nowadays with the whole fake news thing going on.
Yes.
People are actually starting to wake up. It's actually backfiring on them because people will go, well, what's so fake about it? And then they'll go and look at it just for a joke, right? They'll think, oh, this might be funny, right? And then they'll go and click on one of these sites, right? And they'll be giving you a hard truth, and they'll wake up, right?
Yep. They'll go, they didn't tell me that.
They didn't mention that. News. Yeah, exactly. They'll be the first thing to say, hey, they didn't mention that on the news.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's. So who's left in the chat here? There's 5 people watching, which is pretty good.
Yep. Well, I tweeted.
We're not having a guest and sitting here blabbing our faces off.
Yeah, Mikey, Free Bethlehem showed up.
I see that.
Come in the show. I'll shoot you the link in the private chat if you want. Say your name.
Send him the link.
Awesome. I don't know if we want to take a break at some point here.
Yeah, you can take a break whenever. We're about. I don't know how we're probably only going to go a couple hours.
Oh, we're only going to do 2 hours.
I really would like to play this John Rappaport thing.
Go ahead and play that video, Aaron.
It's not really a video. It's just it's a radio interview. There's nothing to see. It's about 20 minutes of John Rappaport giving his presentation. But I got to tell you, I really urge you guys to listen carefully to what he has to say here.
Yeah, perfect timing.
Well, I was wondering, I'm having just a little bit of withdrawal symptoms here, and it's yes.
Yeah, go for it.
So I was wondering if we could have 2 to 3 minutes, and then I'll be back, and then we can rock and roll on John.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Be back shortly.
So you got your sound sorted out, Aaron?
No, I'm just muting and unmuting my microphone as we go here. But I've got John Rappaport all queued up and ready to go here. And like I said, it's probably a good solid 20 minutes, but really, it's really worth listening to the whole thing.
Okay. Give us a quick overview of what it's about.
It's about, I think the World Health Organization is announcing 3 new potential pandemics. Now, one of them we've heard of, which is MERS, M-E-R-S, which is the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome. But there's this other new thing called Lassa fever. And then there's another one that John even says he had never even heard of called Nipah, and that's N-I-P-A-H, which apparently is a virus that is found in fruit bats in Guyana and I forget the other country. But apparently it's, it's something that they're probably going to start pushing forward like they did with the swine flu and the bird flu and the Ebola and every other freaking worldwide scare tactic pandemic they ever came up with that never panned out to be anything but a scare tactic, and virtually nobody got sick. And John says that there's it's the Davos. I'm not sure if it's the World Health Organization, but there was a big meeting in Davos, Switzerland, and there's I don't know if it's being suggested or if it's being implemented, but they're talking about, listen to this, $460 million as a starter fund to get a vaccine program up and running. Bill Gates has even gotten into the mix, suggesting that they should have the whole infrastructure in place so that all they have to do is plug in the one crucial element for whatever new virus, so that it don't have to go through weeks and weeks and months of testing and trial to create a new vaccine. And really, nobody talks better about this subject than John Rappaport. So that's pretty much the overview right there. There are 3 new viruses that are he suggests, and I would probably agree, having listened and knowing John Rappaport and his credibility and background. He's actually a medical journalist. It's his specialty is the a journalist in the field of medicine, and so that's his main research background. So that's kind of what's going on there. Plus, he also goes into he touches on you remember this? I'm sure you remember the swine flu supposed epidemic or pandemic or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Bullshit story to begin with.
He goes into all the details of where it came from, how it came about, and basically what it turns out is it came from a farm, a Smithfield farm, one of those huge factory farms where they have millions of hogs. And I don't know if you guys know or are familiar with what's known as a lagoon. Have you guys heard that term? Do you know what a lagoon is on a hog farm or a cow farm, massive factory farm? You know what a lagoon is? It's basically where they funnel all their piss and shit
Yes,
into a big open air, holding pond.
Yeah, a settling pond.
And so, again, it's probably better left for John Rappaport to lay it out. He knows more about it than I do. I'm familiar with the lagoons. I remember reading an article years ago that somebody, one of the workers on this factory farm, a young teenage kid, was working near the edge. He slipped and he fell into the lagoon. Okay, this is nothing but a liquid pond of excrement from hogs and cows, and look, what you have to understand is when you're treading water and your head is a few inches above the water and you're trying to breathe that close to the surface of the water, or in this case, lagoon, the ammonia levels are so high that you've only got a few seconds, a few breaths of air before you're going to fucking start passing out. And what happened was this guy couldn't get himself out, and somebody else, and he was dying, and another worker jumped in to try to save him, and he suffered the same thing. And then another worker jumped in, tried to save those two, and he suffered the same thing. And literally 3 or 4 people died right in a row trying to save the one guy who fell in. It's that bad.
Wow.
And I think there's a report out that said that the one, literally it's a Smithfield farm. There's literally one factory farm that's got millions of hogs on it, and the total sewage output is equal to New York City on any given day. It's that tremendous.
Eek. Yuck.
All right, so if you guys are ready, I'm ready to go. I'll cue this up in about 2 seconds here.
Okay, keep an eye on the Google chat, Aaron. I just want to mention something. In the Hangout chat.
All right, you guys ready?
Yeah, rock on.
All right, let me know if this needs to be any louder.
Go ahead and mute my mic. If you want to mute your mic, Amy, we'll get better sound.
Yeah, just let me know if I need to turn the volume up or down on this.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you. Good to be here, everybody. Lots of news. Lots of news. Jimmy and I were talking before the show, and he tipped me to a breaking story, which he and I discussed, and we're going to be following this. So you're hearing about it first on Fade to Black. Davos, the World Economic Forum, the big shots, the controllers, the global elite meet and greet and discuss how they're going to carve up the world, only they're in deep trouble now because globalism and the media that represent it are falling. I've talked about that before, but the breaking news story is that they are predicting the next 3 pandemics, and they're naming them as the subject of research and development of vaccines, backed up by Bill Gates Foundation. It's one of these public-private partnerships that we hear so much about. Government agencies, government money, that means tax money, foundation money, corporate money. We've got to develop vaccines for epidemics that don't exist. Okay, let's go. They still think it's their world. And of course, I've documented for a long time one phony dud epidemic after another, and I've described the whole operation behind it, what's going on. And in a nutshell, there are 2 things happening. One is these are all efforts to frighten populations with dire predictions of horrible things going to happen to everybody, and to enforce compliance on citizens in general, not just medical compliance, although that's big, but any kind of compliance. Your government tells you, be afraid of this, take that vaccine, do this, go there. This is all operant conditioning. Keep on promoting these fake epidemics, one after another, that, as you notice, they just fade away after a while. Nobody talks about them anymore. Swine flu, bird flu, smallpox, Ebola, on and on and on, SARS, et cetera, et cetera. So all of a sudden, out of nowhere, these guys who still think that they're running the world are talking about 3 viruses: MERS, M-E-R-S, Lassa, which is a hemorrhagic fever, supposedly, and Nipah, N-I-P-A-H, a virus that I never heard of before tonight, which supposedly resides in fruit bats in Malaysia and now in Ghana. So they're claiming that this has already jumped from animals to humans, and there is human-to-human transition, and there may be as many as, I don't know, out of global population of, what is it now, 8 billion people, more. There might be 7 human cases, maybe, we're not sure, and therefore this is going to be the next worldwide global pandemic, right? And the other operation that is part and parcel of the whole vaccine cartel is the ability to poison, let's use the right word, populations with the ingredients in the vaccines, and also to insert covertly, if they want to, other more destructive elements in these vaccines under the radar, such as the bishops, the Catholic bishops of Kenya, who about, I think it's 2 years ago now, raised the alarm that a vaccine was being given to pregnant age women that contained a hormone that, once injected, could trigger, in many cases, miscarriages when these women became pregnant. There are more details to that, but that's the essence of it. In other words, a depopulation agenda. So that's a bit of the background. $460 million is what they're talking about as a starter fund, the people at Davos, to develop a vaccine system, not only for these 3 viruses, but here's what Bill Gates, you know, the king of all vaccines, is saying. He's saying we need an automatic setup so that whatever the next virus is that comes down the pipeline, we have everything in place and just have to plug in the particular component of that vaccine so that we can start manufacturing immediately and give it to everybody. So we don't have to spend months, maybe years, developing a vaccine. It's all robotic, it's all automatic, it's all being done without the informed consent or any kind of consent by the global population. That's where they're going. And they have cited, for no reason, these 3 as the next biggies: MERS, Lassa fever, and Nipah, which they're calling NIV, in a clever little move to make people think of HIV. Yeah, the boys are busy and they're at it again. I'm going to segue from there into a story about swine flu once again, because I've come up with some new, just killer info on this. I've been through this story before in Fade to Black, so I'm not going to try to lay out the whole thing, but I'm going to try to on the basis of 20 cases worldwide, at the highest level of pandemic warning from the World Health Organization, a new virus that had never been seen before, or something that, you know, had rarely been understood or noticed, H1N1, and that was the cause of swine flu. And it turned out to be a total dud epidemic. But it was promoted worldwide. People in droves stayed away from the vaccine. It turned out that the CDC was lying through its teeth about the number of cases, ballooning them completely out of proportion based on no laboratory evidence whatsoever. In fact, the evidence showed, which they suppressed until Cheryl Atkinson, investigative reporter for CBS, uncovered the whole scam, that the CDC had secretly stopped counting cases because overwhelmingly all the blood samples coming back from labs from most likely swine flu patients were completely without any trace of this virus for swine flu or any other flu. That was a gigantic scandal. But here's where the story gets to be quite fantastic. The swine flu fake epidemic supposedly originated in Mexico, in a village called La Gloria, where there was a Smithfield huge pig farm. This is not to be visualized as 30 or 40 or even 100 pigs running around. These are factory farms, gigantic, huge numbers. So a friend of mine gave me a book called Crimes Against Nature by Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who may be heading up a Trump investigation of vaccine safety, by the way. And he begins writing about these gigantic pig farm corporate this giant operation in Gloria, Mexico, where workers started dying, and all of a sudden the CDC sent down their epidemic specialists who decided immediately, because that's what they do, that it was all about a virus and it was really a disease, and that led to the whole announcement of swine flu is going to destroy half the planet, when in fact this was an environmental situation completely. So listen to this, first of all, from the National Geographic, of all people, October 30, 2014. To handle all that pig farm feces waste, farmers in North Carolina use a standard practice called the lagoon and spray field system. They flush feces and urine from barns into open air pits called lagoons, which in turn color Pepto-Bismol when pink colored bacteria colonize the waste. To keep the lagoons from overflowing, farmers spray liquid manure on their fields nearby. The result, says Steve Wing, an epidemiologist at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, is this: the eastern part of North Carolina is covered with shit. That's from the National Geographic. All right. Now, you have to understand, as I've written in an article, giant companies like Smithfield have influenced legislators and government agency officials. Environmental laws and regulations are ignored or changed. Lawsuits are fought hammer and tongs. All right. Here's what Robert F. Kennedy told a radio interviewer this year. A hog produces 10 times the amount of fecal waste by weight as a human being, so that if you have a facility that has 10,000 hogs in it, it's producing as much sewage as a city of 100,000 people. Smithfield has one plant in Utah, they call it Circle 4 Farms, that has 1 million hogs on it, so it's producing the same amount of waste as New York City every day. Got it? All right. Kennedy goes on to say, basically, that these giant corporate pig operations should have to have a sewage treatment plant that cleans it all up, right? And yet, if they had to build that plant, it would drive the price of hogs up so that they could no longer function in the marketplace. So they just spread this shit all over everywhere where they have these giant pig facilities. All right? And one of those was in La Gloria, Mexico. And let me describe in a little more detail these giant lagoons outdoor in the sun of pig feces, because they have down in La Gloria, but it's gigantic. Lagoons of fecal waste from pigs out there. Now, they spray huge numbers of toxic chemicals, into the lagoons to try to neutralize them. Obviously didn't work in 2009, so workers began dying down there, as they would, working around that much fecal sewage with God knows what's happening in it, plus all the toxic chemicals, plus they brought in new workers with new chemicals to spray without any announcement of how toxic these chemicals were, and the workers died. Imagine yourself living, let's say, in a sewer under a city with all kinds of fecal waste and biting insects and foul water and foul air. That'll give you just a vague idea. And then you get sick, right? So then you take out your cell phone, I mean, crazy, right? And you make a call, rescue me. But instead of hazmat workers and, emergency personnel showing up, instead, the CDC sends down virus hunters, and they take a blood sample from you, and they say, well, obviously, this is a terrible disease, must be caused by a virus. We don't even know what it is, but we're going to go back to the lab and figure it out, right? This is a total diversion and a distraction and a covert op. This whole thing with the virus hunters and the disease and the labs and the testing and the pop and the virus to cover up and protect giant corporate interests and their ability to continue to spread shit all over the world with these gigantic facilities.
So literally.
That are completely and utterly toxic. But to prevent exposure, as I've said many times, the virus is the greatest cover story in the world. Oh, we have a new disease, and it could be epidemic in proportions, and it started on this pig farm in Mexico, and now the CDC has sent down its best researchers, and we found the virus H1N1, and it's spreading all over the world, blah, 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 blah. Well, maybe they found a virus, maybe they didn't, but whatever. The virus is probably, let's say, if it exists at all, it's been around for a couple 100,000 years. You can find it anywhere in the world if you look for it, and it's never caused any dire condition at all. But they can say that it does, and they can begin to map it and chart it and track it and talk about the spread from here to there, and all the time they are protecting giant agricultural corporate interests, namely the pig farms, which I hope I have described well enough now so that you can visualize what we're talking about here. And protect these corporations from having to have sewage treatment. They could just spread this all over the landscape. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. makes a vital distinction here. The small pig farmer, who of course is being put out of business all the time by the Smithfields of this world because they can't compete. The small hog farmer takes the manure from the pigs and spreads it on his field as fertilizer, compost, if you will, for the growth of crops. But the giant corporate agricultural farmer can't do that because there is such a surfeit, an excess of pig feces that it doesn't work. There's the amount of feces greatly outflank the amount of land that there is there. So it just gets into the groundwater. It's spread out in the open in these lagoons. It gets into rivers. It gets into the soil. The elements get into the air. It gets everywhere. No sewage treatment, because suddenly that would not be cost effective. Well, somebody has to cover this up and protect all these worldwide operations from being shut down or from being restructured so that suddenly there are sewage treatment plants and the profits of these corporations dive and their stock prices go down, et cetera, et cetera. Right? Somebody's got to protect all that, right, in the world of business as business. And so here's the ideal solution. We'll say it's all a virus. We'll say it's a disease. It's not a disease. People get sick when they live in sick environments. It's as simple as that. You can prove it. Go to a sick environment in a locality, clean it up, clean up the contaminated water supplies, do everything to clean it up and the sanitation and so forth, and eventually the population will begin to get healthy. No drugs, no vaccines, no treatment, no virus announcement, no nothing. I've been documenting this for, almost 30 years now in various so-called epidemics. Same pattern. I had not discovered this final element here of the commercial pig farm operations until I opened up Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s book, Crimes Against Nature. And then the entire final picture became clear. And so, notice this. One of these three viruses, Nipah, that they're suddenly predicting, oh, the next epidemic, oh yeah, it infects pigs, they say. Yet another wonderful cover story that they could use. Oh, all these workers that are dying, et cetera, in their corporate pig farms. Oh yeah, we discovered they're dying of Nipah. That's the next giant swine flu-like epidemic that they could announce. Another beautiful cover story. NIV, right? You see where this is going? I mean, I know this audience is interested in conspiracies, and here's one that you can really grab onto. This is absolutely gigantic. Corrupting government legislators, environmental officials, law passing so that they get these corporations, agricultural corporations, get a free pass. Medical cartels, CDC, fake announcements of fake epidemics. The destruction of the environment as this toxic waste seeps everywhere. I mean, come on. You want a conspiracy? There it is. And the whole thing at Davos, where they are just basically telling the population, here are the next three fake epidemics that we're going to scare you with and get you vaccinated with. That's the other component of this whole story, the vaccines. And they are MERS, M-E-R-S, Lassa, and Nipah. Yeah, and we're going to have an automatic vaccine machine system that just plugs it in whenever we need one for whatever we decide is the next epidemic, and we're going to try to subject you to it. And the vaccine manufacturers will make untold billions, if not trillions of dollars as this keeps on going. And we will have a compliant population that does whatever we tell it to do. Well, this is all breaking down, folks. The whole system, the whole con, the whole covert op, all of the shit is breaking down. Their shit. Because it's all being exposed. And what I've given you here tonight, maybe 3 or 4, 10 people in the world, in terms of reporters and investigators, would have an immediate handle on all of this. Yeah, maybe that sounds like I'm boasting, but I'm just laying it out for you. Maybe 10 other researchers would be jumping on all of this as quickly and seeing all of the components I have been exposing this for 29 years. The virus as the cover story, calling environmental destruction a disease when it is not a disease. It is environmental destruction. That's what it is. Okay, folks. Okay, Jimmy.
Wow. Sorry to bring you down, but I wasn't watching the chat box. As you can see, I'm doing a screen share here. I hope you guys were seeing what I was seeing there.
Yeah, well, where do I even start on that?
That's just.
Is anyone angry yet?
Well, yeah.
That's just additional to all the stuff that has made me infuriated with the money system, with the fact that we're accounting for our energy and promoting profiteering amongst many other issues. And, there isn't a solution to profiteering other than getting rid of money, getting rid of the need for it.
But that's actually a two-tiered conspiracy, because there's also the vaccination side of it as well that's going to benefit too, right?
Yes.
So all the medical establishment will benefit from that conspiracy as well.
Oh yeah. They benefit. They, really, when you get down to it, they benefit from all angles.
The fact that, it's out there and it's like this hidden thing that you never even think about, but it's so horrific and gross and it's damaging, but it's enough to make anyone angry.
Absolutely.
Are you guys getting an echo?
Yeah, a tiny bit.
Just
not
a little
really.
bit. Not a huge one, but.
All right, sorry, because I forgot to unmute my mic, or I forgot to mute my microphone after that John Rappaport. Zach was saying in the chat box that he wanted to talk about RH negative, and we haven't talked to Mike in a while. I wouldn't mind maybe getting him in here. But before we do, I really want to just stress what we just heard, because I want everyone to be aware, as much as I can spread this information, be aware that when you hear these new words like Lassa or Lassa fever, Lassa, I don't know how to spell it. And then there's another one called Nipah. And obviously we've been already primed. We've heard about MERS, the Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome. I know what that one is.
Yeah.
And we've heard about that one before. So I just want to keep everybody appraised to what may be coming down the pike. I'm not trying to fearmonger or anything, but keep your ears out. And when you hear these, come up in the media at any time, very, quickly, instantly that here it is. It's what John was warning about. It's bullshit. It's here comes another pandemic. Because after all, don't they come in cycles? It's like one comes and then we get scared and then it turns into nothing and then there's a dead spot and then, oh my God, it's SARS. And then, 6 months later or a year later, it's like nothing happened. They just shut up about it. They don't say anything about, hey, we solved the problem. We wiped it out. They don't say anything. They just freaking shut up about it.
Where did Ebola go?
Where did all of them go?
It's like,
Swine flu, SARS.
Yep.
Where did any of them go?
They're covered for this.
I mean, there's a very obvious freaking pattern for anybody who pays a little bit of attention. The pattern is the same. They scare the shit out of us. We're all going to die from bird flu. And then they just stop talking about it.
Yep.
They just simply stop talking about it. And the hard thing to notice is when there's not something there. It's easy to see when there's something there. When they're talking about it, when you see it, it's easy to spot. But when there's nothing there, your brain doesn't have anything to focus on. And so you just don't think about it, out of sight, out of mind.
Yep.
So then we go quiet for a little while, and then swine flu. Oh my God, swine flu is going to kill everybody. It's
Oh, I
transmitted.
remember,
My
man.
child died yesterday. Oh, he's fine now. Everybody back to work. No more talk.
Yep.
Oh, wait. Well, we can't talk about swine flu because Anna Nicole Smith died, and we're going to consume 2 months of 24-hour news cycle about Anna Nicole Smith.
Yep.
And then everything is all cool, and then all of a sudden, SARS.
Yep.
Right?
I always wonder,
And then they just shut up. And then Ebola. And then they just shut up. They never say, we got a vaccine, we wiped it out, we conquered it like we did polio. Good on us. Hooray. They don't even do that. They just shut up.
No, it just suddenly isn't an issue and nobody talks about it.
Right.
Sad.
See, I always just thought it was just from cell vaccines and stuff, but this goes even deeper. This is another level of
Evil.
conspiracy.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. Zach said, don't forget Zika.
Yep,
Zika.
Zika. Yeah, and it's microcephaly, which, when you looked at the data, there wasn't any. You know? Oh, geez.
Exactly. All of the children. In fact, I can go back to some old John Rappaport presentations. And by the way, hey, Zach, how you doing?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
I can go back to some old John Rappaport presentations where he can document and show you the documents where they did testing on those children who had microcephaly, and none of them had Zika.
Yep.
They didn't confirm Zika in any of them.
Yep, I remember that.
Well, that's why Ebola was such a hoax too, with all the Ebola green and all of that, right?
Oh yeah, they used the color code that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
and
did. I didn't see a color code on Zika, but maybe I missed it not looking for it. But definitely Ebola had green on everything.
Jump in, Zach.
Yeah.
What do you mean color code?
On all of the victims of the Ebola virus, they're all wearing green. Even the prostitutes on TV talking about it were wearing green.
Yeah, they were wearing these lime green ties, lime green collars and clothes. And then they would show you images of black people somewhere in the Sudan. All of them were,
wearing green.
Just constantly being hit with all the articles and.
Yeah, green backdrops. I mean, it was just green everywhere.
So it was the code of the that's the way they communicate. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but they used, So,
well, they absolutely did color code the propaganda on Ebola.
And they also paid people, those crisis actors that were caught. The lady in the hospital was totally fake. The one, the Filipino or some lady, she was in the hospital and she was just all up and about in like days, and she was supposed to be near death at first. And it was all really completely fake. Right? They also caught a guy getting paid cash out in Nigeria. They're outside of one of these Ebola medical facility things, makeshift medical facility put up, right? And the guy was pretending to be sick, and they had a kid laying down.
Oh yeah.
And the camera actually caught the kid getting into position and laying down looking sick.
Yeah.
He just kind of wanders over to the sheet and then kind of hunkers down on his side.
Remember that? They also showed a guy getting handed cash, and he put cash.
That's right. After laying down in front of the hospital,
pretending to be sick, laying there outside the door. They said he'd been waiting to get in.
and there was nobody else around. It wasn't like there was a line of people to get in. It was empty, and it was just him laying there. And they said, "Oh, he can't get in. He's waiting to get in." Really, he's so busy. Really, and there's nobody standing in the door in a line. It was just absurd. And then he got caught getting handed cash. He got up, he walked over, he got paid, and he walked off.
I don't appreciate Jeff C. very much. Free radio revolution, but he did do a really good coverage of Ebola. He did, and it was a lot to do with what I remember right now.
P. Marie's out of here. See you. Bye. Thanks for stopping by, P. Marie. I'll catch you later.
So what do you think, Jux? What do you think of all that we just listened to?
I missed a good part of it. I was multitasking earlier.
Well, they're dumping all this animal waste, right, into ponds.
Oh, you're talking about especially pig farms. I know they're a huge problem.
Yeah, it would be the same with livestock too, right? Because they all big piles of manure outside of their plants, right?
Yeah,
just mountains of manure.
Chickens.
Well,
and
that stuff's all.
Pound for pound, pigs are, I think, the worst.
Yeah, I mean, they spray the shit and piss. Excuse my language. Right up in the air.
Yeah.
I think they drain the ponds and spray that stuff all over the place. It ends up in people's yards. There's plenty of videos of that.
Yeah. But they, what was I going to say? I can't remember now. It's basically a covert cover-up, right, with all of these phony viruses.
Well, you know, farmers used to spread their manure on their fields and it would fertilize the crops. Now we have these factory farms that put out more than anybody can handle in the area.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they have literally put the small farmer out of business. So the small farmer now has to buy special manure from other livestock keepers.
Right, I'm sure that's
manure and stuff like that.
By design, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
They work just like Monsanto as well, right? Where you have to buy their seeds. Right?
Yeah.
And works kind of the same.
So now we have farmers that don't do what farmers used to do. They're all specialized.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So now they have to buy manure. They have to buy manure. They're buying shit. How would you like to have to pay for a bucket of shit?
Yeah.
It's insane.
Where are you going? I'm going to the store. Buying some shit. What shit?
So now we have Smithfield who's producing so much in such a localized area that they have no other choice than to create these literally small lakes. They're like ponds. It's somewhere between a pond and a lake. They're big ponds or small lakes. They're huge. That's why we call them lagoons, because it's somewhere in the middle. It's not a pond. It's bigger than that. Not a lake. A little smaller. But they're just producing way more than anybody can handle. And so then what do? They dump literally horrible toxic chemicals on it. Why? Because, well, hell, nature can't take its course, can it? I mean, that pink, Pepto-Bismol colored bacteria that grows on that stuff, well, what is that? That's a function of nature.
Yes.
As bad as it looks and as bad as it smells and as nasty as it is, it's a function of nature. And what are they doing? They're trying to stop that yet again. They can't even let the shit rot on its own. They got to dump horrible chemicals on it.
Ugh.
I mean, how fucking bad does this place have to get before people get mad and wake the freak up? Just
good question.
Sorry for the F-bomb, but damn it. Is anybody else pissed off yet?
I'm furious.
Yeah, really. Well, unless they're dealing with it or seeing it in front of their face, it doesn't affect them.
Yeah,
That's it. That's why we're doing the show. So maybe somebody out there is watching who may not be familiar and has now learned something. And maybe I pissed off one more person, and thank God I've done my job. If I made somebody angry today, I know I've done my job.
Absolutely.
Because honestly, nothing's going to happen until we all band together in very angry tone with pitchforks and fucking torches. Here I go again. I'm sorry with the F-bombs. I'll quit it. But seriously, that's what it's going to take. It's going to take huge mobs of very angry people.
Yep. I agree.
I mean,
it's hard. It's hard when you get
anything has ever changed for the benefit of the mass. is when huge groups of people storm the castle, literally.
Well, withdraw consent. Stop consenting to these crazy things. Don't buy anything. I'm a vegetarian, and it's not because I wouldn't eat meat, but that I won't eat meat from these confined animal feeding operations, which that's what's causing these problems. I won't touch anything that I don't know didn't have a natural, happy, normal, wonderful critter life before it was butchered for its meat. If somebody goes out and shoots a deer and brings home the meat, I'll eat it.
I kind of tend to disagree a little bit on that, because they are produced to be eaten. They are grown and bred to be eaten, right?
Yeah, Ian, but it's the conditions under the factory
wild to be slaughtered. It's not like, unless you're hunting, right?
It's not the concept of raising livestock that we oppose, Ian.
No, it's the way.
It's the
factory farm conditions.
Yeah. The conditions
animals are forced to live under, which are deplorable. And let me give you an example. Let me just have the floor for a moment and say this. If you go to the grocery store and you look at a whole chicken, or even like a chicken thigh that has the leg bone attached, here's next time, and try to remember this. A lot of times the package is somewhat clear, despite the labeling, and you can see the skin on the leg bone. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, what I want you to look for is a brown spot about the size of a nickel, a U.S. nickel. Okay? I forget you're in Canada, so you may not be used to our, first world.
We have to go to the farm. We have to go to the farm to get our meat.
But anyway, it's about the size of a nickel. And it's literally a brown spot right on the skin. Now, there's a term for that, and it's called hawk mark. And the reason there's a term for it, and the reason there's a spot, is because those chickens are forced to live their entire lives in a hen house, in one of those huge, long fucking houses, chicken house.
Right.
Okay? They never get the light of day, which is one thing, but...
Why is that? Well, we'll get to. We can get to that later.
Yes, we can. So the condition that chicken lives in, there's so many chickens. There's standing room only. Okay, they can't even walk around. Okay.
Right. Yeah, it's ghastly.
So basically, the floor becomes a layer of shit, and feces and piss and just chicken shit. Okay. There's layers and layers, inches and inches of it. And when the chicken is tired of fucking standing, sorry with the F-bombs, I'm sorry, but this stuff pisses me off. When the chicken is tired of standing, he sits down and he puts his hind leg, which is basically his knee, which bends backwards, okay? They don't, right? It doesn't bend like we do. Mm-hmm. So he puts his knee on the ground. And that hawk mark, because it burns the skin, because it's ammonia in the piss and shit that he has to sit on. His whole life. Mm-hmm. So you can see it at the grocery store because it burns the skin. And it's irritating, painful. They don't get sunlight, they don't get fresh air, they can't even freaking walk around, and they're forced to live on shit.
Yeah, it's hideous.
And then the conditions get so parasitic and disgusting and foul and infectious that the chickens are pumped full of ridiculous levels of
antibiotics,
so the chickens don't get sick. Because when you force a chicken to live on shit its entire life and breathe in ammonia all day, because the entire 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 square foot chicken house is nothing but a layer of shit.
Yeah,
the air quality is terrible.
Oh, it's ghastly. And then
in some cases, they're fed back to themselves when the sick get dead. When they pull out the dead animals and they turn them back into food and they feed them back to the same animals.
And when they go to butcher them, the conditions are utterly filthy. They're ghastly. They're inhumane. I mean, it's just no. I won't. I will not support that.
No, I'm not. I'm not
Eat
saying
my
it's
vegetables.
good. I'm just saying, it's not like they were all pulled out of a wild, right? That's the only thing I'm saying.
No, I have no problem. I don't know if you've heard of polyface farms, but I would eat anything from that farm. Their cows meander through the fields, leaving their cow patties that grow the worms. Then they run the chickens through the fields where they pluck all the worms out of the poop. I mean, this is how it used to be done.
Right. Yeah.
And they've got their chicken coops up so that the poop drops, and then they have the pigs going through it, and it creates wonderful fertilizer. They put corn in there and it ferments and the pigs go crazy for it. So they turn the fertilizer for you. You don't have to do it. I mean, it's all very natural and wonderful. Right. And, if all the farms were like polyface farms, the quality of our meats would be glorious and the quality of our vegetables would be glorious. But unfortunately, that's not how corporate America, who only wants to see how much profit they can get, profit motive produces the nastiest behaviors.
I live in Amish country, so we have access to great food.
Oh, I miss that. When I was living in Ithaca, we had a lot of Amish around, and yeah, I'd go to their farms. And
so basically, speaking of living in poop, we are now, through that covert conspiracy there, are being treated exactly like the chickens are being treated.
Exactly. We're
now the livestock, right?
Yeah,
well,
you're right.
We've always been the livestock, and that's no joke.
In their perspective,
yes. We're being turned into that now through this practice of just dumping poop everywhere.
If you consider Agenda 21 and now Agenda 30, where they're trying to get people out of the rural areas, they're trying to stack and pack everybody that's left, that is, after depopulation.
Yeah.
So they want everyone stacked and packed, where nobody has room to spread out and get some fresh air, where everything is concrete and steel and piss and shit, and nowhere for it to go.
Yeah.
Yep.
We'll just come full circle like they used to do in the old times, just throw their crap out the window. There's nowhere else to put it.
We'll try to have people working and living in the same facilities.
Yeah, living and shopping in the same buildings, more or less, or within walking distance, so you get out of your car.
Yeah.
Yep.
See, that reminds me of one of those pictures I was showing during the John Rapp report, where all the pigs were in their respective, pen. It was all the poles, all that caging where they were feeding. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The picture I showed.
Yeah.
So yeah, just like
that's just what they're turning us into.
Yep.
Amy, I think you're onto something with your, whole non-consent point of view, and possibly even the money thing. Is just so hard to get to that point, and it's so hard. Can you imagine having a kid right now and birthing it naturally, not in a hospital, and not getting its social security number and all that? How hard it would be growing up, how hard it would be for the kid too. I mean, and that's just
if this is the way I got it worked, if enough of us withdraw consent and start consenting to a better way of doing things, I'm thinking that perhaps we will succeed. that their power will vanish if we are all just going, no, not going to go there. Actually, we don't never say, no, I won't, because that creates controversy. Always say, I will be happy to be subject to that if you prove I am subject. Because then you're not creating controversy. You're just offering them a deal. The thing is that once you've withdrawn your consent, there is no proof that you are subject. So they can't prove it. Now they can bully.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that, initially the people who put their foot down and take their stand may wind up being bullied. But that, we're going to have to do some of that before, we get to where we need to be. But eventually, they where will they start? Everybody's doing it. Which one? And of course, also you point out that their bullying does not prove that you are subject, although they will try to convince you that that's what that is proving. All that proves is that they can be bullies. That is all they're proving. They are not proving that you are subject. They are proving you are subject to bullying, is what, and I don't contest that. I don't contest that people can be bullies and that I can be subject to bullying.
Right.
But if we make the stand and just say, I don't consent, I'm consenting to this, and already there's a lot of the foundation for solving problems via the web in place. A lot of people are working that problem, but they still have that money thing involved. And that's why the free energy is so vital. And that would be the very first thing I would do if I had a bloody dime to my name.
If you didn't get taken out in the process.
Well, there are people.
She's this morning, but we went to work. My God, Claire, I'm sorry. Tell her I've been stressed out at work.
I'm having difficulty understanding you there, V.
Oh God.
She was just talking in the background. So.
Oh, okay. I thought she was talking to us.
All right, so you guys are getting me full screen while you're talking, yeah?
Yeah.
This is a typical chicken house.
Yep.
And you can see that there's standing room only. They live their whole lives there. Now, luckily, they at least get a little sunlight. They've got at least, clear walls, so they can actually get some freaking sunlight, for crying out loud.
I've always wondered why they keep them in the dark like that.
It's cheaper than putting in glass.
It's cheaper than, I was just going to say that. It's cheaper than putting in glass or plexiglass. It's cheaper.
You think it's that, or do you think it actually messes with the quality of the product?
Well, it does mess with the quality of product because it messes with the quality of the health of the animal.
That's on
sunlight is necessary.
Vitamin D and all.
Yeah, even birds with feathers still absorb sunlight. Look, my cat is covered in hair. Why do you think my cat likes to lay in the sun? Some people would say, oh, because it's warm. Well, it's not always warm.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's winter and it's just not that warm. They still get the light. The light penetrates through the hair. It penetrates through the feathers. They still get the light. Light is freaking vital, for crying out loud. It's sanitary. It's
very true. I when I was a kid, we spent a lot of time during the summers on a couple of different farms that a couple of different of our relatives owned in South Dakota. And I remember what raising chickens was like there. And they had a house that they had each one had their own little spot they liked to be in, but then they could go out in the yard and peck at the grains and things that were thrown down for them, and that's the kind of life, and bugs and whatever else they were interested in.
Natural protein, natural food source.
Exactly.
Fresh air, sunlight.
Yep. And I tell you, those eggs, I have never had more delicious eggs than the eggs laid by a truly happy hen.
Yeah, I think the condition of...
Let's use a more appropriate word. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Zach, but happy is important, and I agree with you, Amy. I just want to use a more definitive word, which would be healthy.
Well, yes.
A healthy animal.
Well, I think just being
happy and healthy, because I think that their mental status does affect their flesh.
I agree.
Well, yeah, the animal. Look, that picture I showed you a minute ago with all the chickens up. When those chickens get tired of standing, they lay down and piss and shit, and it burns their skin. It's painful. That's just stressful environment. Listen, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but it's common for these farmers to file the beaks off of these birds.
Yes.
You know why? Does anybody know why?
Because this is so stressful, they get angry at each other and start pecking at each other.
That's right.
Yep. Peck each other's eyes out and
right.
each other.
It's so fucking stressful and so disgusting and so deplorable that even a chicken, as dumb as it is, and ask anybody, they're the dumbest fucking thing on the planet.
They are pretty damn dumb.
And even the dumbest animal on the planet knows that this is not the way it's supposed to be.
Yep.
Okay, now I'm getting sad.
I know. It breaks my heart looking at those poor critters.
I know. For anyone out there that doesn't know, there are plenty of them to avoid, but you should always be avoiding Tyson and Purdue chicken.
And Smith.
Always.
Oh yeah, that one too.
Yeah, we don't get those brands here.
So look at this. This factory farm here. Can you guys imagine taking all these houses and shoving them together in your mind? Take the square footage here and pick it up and put it in this lagoon. All right, this big house would consume maybe right there. This whole to the left, this whole area, and then you take these little houses and you stick them together. These two ones would literally fit straight across. So bang bang. Now we're up to here. These two, you turn them sideways, and you'd have one here and one here. And then you have these two big guys. The bottom line is that this lagoon is as big or even possibly a little bit bigger in square footage than all these houses put together.
It is.
It's as big or maybe a little bit bigger.
Yeah, maybe even bigger.
And some of the other pictures I was showing earlier, look at the size of that pond. You could fit all, now this, not fair, I can't see how many, there might be houses outside of the frame of this picture.
Right.
But look at some of these other ones, like that one right there. That pond is bigger than all them houses put together.
Easily. Ugh.
Look at that one. And that one. And that one. Here's the houses, here's the lagoon, and over here, the houses and the lagoon. And over here, it looks like they're getting ready to build another one.
Totally insane. All that, especially with, all of that fecal matter could make some very wonderful fertilizer if it was processed correctly.
Oh, absolutely. But then you have to ship it. But the problem is you have to ship it long distances because it's so localized that nobody for a long distance has any
And the only thing that is a problem in shipping long distance is profit.
Well, that's right. So it's
Yeah,
now
that's
not,
why.
now it's not profitable to even buy shit for your fields to fertilize. So now they got to use chemical fertilizers on the fields.
Yes, I know.
I mean,
It's
every aspect of the
totally
entire
askew
system
from the way
is
it should be.
corrupted. Every aspect of the whole system.
Yes. Profiteering. You
So
know,
at least
destroy
these
our.
people have a little bit of elbow room, but they don't look healthy at all.
No, they don't. They don't look like happy birds.
Well,
See, here, watch this. I'll tell you what, let's try this. I'm going to back up. Watch this. I'm going to show you guys something. If you've never seen this, I'm not even sure what hack marks. No, I want hawk. Try that. Here we go. Maybe this is it. Spot disease. Well, they're calling it a disease.
Right.
Oh, jeez.
No.
Well, get your vaccines out.
Spot disease. Let's see.
Oh.
Let's make sure, because if that's what they're talking about, then that's not a disease. It's a condition, because the animal has to lay down in its own feces all day long.
Well, disease is a dis-ease, being not at ease. So I guess you could kind of stretch it.
You'd really have to stretch it, but yeah, I suppose you could. But it is certainly not something that you catch from somebody sneezing, say.
Right. It's not a disease in that regard.
All right.
It's important if you are going to eat meat to always keep in mind the quality and the quantity that you're consuming. And Amy, I tried being a vegetarian for the better part of a year, probably 9-10 months, and I was doing great, felt great, felt really good actually, probably the best I've ever felt until my joints started wearing out. All my joints just started locking up and hurting, and I was like, yeah, I ate some beef and it immediately went away.
Well, I know that I avoid that because I do eat eggs.
Okay.
I eat eggs. And that seems to help when I get my eggs.
Yeah, eggs have a lot of phosphorus and a whole lot of good stuff going for them.
Oh yeah, they're awesome. Especially if you can afford to get them from truly free range.
Yeah, truly free range.
I can't afford that, unfortunately.
All right, I spouted off a little bit of ignorance earlier when I said they're calling it a disease. This is chicken comb spot disease, having nothing to do with what I said earlier. So I just want to make that correction.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
But the sad part is I'm actually having a hard time finding this. Hawk marks on chickens. I mean, that should come up. I wonder if it's. No, I don't want to be paranoid and say that whole internet is scrubs, but I mean, maybe I'm just not throwing out the right search term. Let's try the almighty Google. The Google knows all. Hawk marks. Look at what comes up. Making
Strange.
students marks fair.
Is it possibly HOCK?
Hawk burns. Wikipedia. Marks found on the upper joints of chickens and other birds raised in broiler farms. Let's see what Wikipedia has to say. If there's any pictures, probably not. Wikipedia doesn't usually have pictures. Battery cage, broiler, factory farming, blah, blah, blah. National World Broiler Farming Campaign. Poultry disease.
It says it's identified in 82% of livestock sold in supermarkets.
82%. That's because they all live in the same pile of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Burn away. Hawk burns with contact dermatitis, hawk burns. Foot pad dermatitis, hawk burns. Broiler chickens. Let's try hawk burn image. One in 3 supermarket chickens suffer skin burns.
That's just, yeah.
Supermarket chickens kept in their own excrement. If consumers knew, 2/3 of chickens have superbug.
Oh, wow.
Let's look at this one. This doesn't bring you down, I don't know what will. The plight of chickens. Chicken farming facts. Exposing the secret suffering. Can I just get an image so I can show my pals here?
If I can get it, there we go. I just put a link in. It's got some nice pictures towards the bottom.
Oh, yeah, it shows big. Oh. Hey. Yeah, scroll down.
I don't know if I'm locked up or what, but it's not responding. It won't go full screen. Can't scroll.
Maybe try again.
Hang on. Got something. Silverlight was blocked because it is out of date and needs to be updated.
Yeah, I can screenshot. I've got it.
Update. All right, you do the screen share. I'm gonna get a drink. I'll be back.
So it says pododermatitis.
You're not screen sharing there.
Yeah, I can see it.
I see it.
Oh, you can? I wonder why I can't. How bizarre.
Click on
A
his
dollar.
icon.
Yeah, I've got his icon, and all I'm getting is his little dancey figure.
And hawkburn are generally held to be related to wet litter and enteric challenge.
You see the image below on the knee joints, that brown mark? You can see that on the poultry you buy at the grocery store. You can see it through the packaging.
Oh, man.
Okay. This is severe over here.
Yeah, now imagine how painful that is because the ammonia burns the skin.
Yeah, it's ammonia.
Oh. Yeah, that. We should not be producing this kind of suffering in this world. It's unnecessary.
Oh, it is.
Hey, we got Sheldon SH is in the chat here. Hello, everyone. Have a question about Jewish chickens? Are they good? He said it would take twice as long to file a Jewish beak down, a Jewish chicken's beak. Okay, that's funny.
That's what I'm doing. Big thing.
Do you guys have any alternatives your way?
Alternatives?
Decently raised meats. I don't know where you guys live.
Well, I live outside of Atlanta, and there are some farmers markets around here. And we do actually have a local butcher and alternatives. And Nancy and I have actually been talking about, making use of it. So maybe after this show, I'll reconsider and we'll go full forward on that.
Yeah, and if you guys,
yeah, good thought.
If you guys, if anyone out there buys ground beef, a lot of supermarkets even nowadays are carrying grass-fed beef, which is way better for you. And typically they're raised, in a nice open area and treated humanely.
Yep.
Grass-fed beef is loaded with omega-3s instead of omega-6s. Omega-6s slow. The oil is sticky, whereas omega-3s are slippery. And omega-3s actually help you. They're beneficial. Everyone needs fat for brain function, for everything else.
Yeah.
Well, grass-fed is way, way better for a myriad of reasons.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It's just not very efficient for factory farming to grass feed. They just have too many cows, and there's not enough grass to do it. So that's why we have to have more local small farms, more local small livestock farms, and farms.
Yep.
I mean, look, for Christ's sake, if the Egyptians and the Romans could feed and water 1 million people without cars and trucks and internet, right? The Romans had over 1 million people in Rome.
Yeah.
Now, I might be wrong. The number might be higher. But they had a hell of a lot of people. And everybody knows that the Romans went out of their way. They built the aqueducts because they had people and they needed water. They brought water from hundreds of miles away. They diverted rivers. They built aqueducts that were perfectly sloped over 100 miles, some of those things.
I highly recommend that people look into polyface farms. I'm going to put a link down here in our box, and if you want to dump it into the chat, that would be really cool.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to look into that too. I think I know what you mean. I'm pretty sure they can even do that with fish, right? Where they recycle the fish fertilizer, and I think even the fish are fed by something else.
Yeah, I'm not really sure about the fish. I know that polyface is less fish oriented than it is poultry and beef.
Okay.
And then fruits and vegetables and stuff. Oh, and pigs. They have pigs.
All right, guys. Well, I got to jump out of here. Got a few things to do.
Well, hey, wait. Before you run off, Zach, is there anything you know about the Rh negative that because you said you wanted to talk about that? Now, I'm not asking you to talk about it now. I'm just saying, are you a little bit versed on the Rh negative?
No, not really. Not too much. I just like to hear what Mike had to say about it, because I do know that they test for it, and for some reason they place some kind of importance on it. Now, Amy, you said your mother was Rh negative. Mine was too.
Cool.
I don't know my blood type. Even though I was in the Army, on my military ID, it says blood type unknown.
What?
How weird.
Yeah. And my dad, he was type O negative, and I know there's a significance to that too.
Type.
It has to do with Neanderthals and DNA. I'm not going to get into all that. But
Yeah.
Well, my mom was O negative, my father was O positive, and I'm O positive.
oh, cool.
I think O negative is the universal blood. You can donate to anyone.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes, indeed.
But I know a lot of the so-called elite families, their blood is Rh negative.
True.
Well, I had not heard that, and I will look for verification on that. It may be difficult to scrounge up. You're going to have to trace one at a time and see what you can find on some of these people.
Actually, I think there's been plenty of research on that. I'm fairly certain it wouldn't be that hard to find.
Shit, let's look it up. Good type or not?
So you got to get.
Trails target Rh negative in indigos, elite bloodline families, Rh negative blood, mystery bloodline, YouTube, Rh negative theory, Jesus, Rh blood mute, Rh negative ancestral memories. Wow. Well, are you still here, Zach?
Yeah.
Well, I just threw in the search term Rh bloodline elites, and nothing.
I typed in to Google Rh negative elite families.
Oh, Rh negative.
Yeah, because Rh stands for what is it? Rheumatoid monkey DNA.
It's a rhesus monkey.
Or racist, yeah, I'm sorry, racist monkey. And the people that don't have that gene are considered Rh negative.
Who do not have that gene are considered Rh negative.
Right, they don't have that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting,
Mm-hmm.
actually. So, okay, so we're all evolved from monkeys, and the elite bloodlines are not evolved from monkeys.
That's what it seems to indicate.
Okay, I'm going to look more into this. See, that's why I love the show, so I can interact with people like you to bring me stuff to look at. Sharing information, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. I love your show for that reason.
All right, Zach. I know you got to go. You got stuff to do, and it was cool talking to you again. And you stay cool, man. I'll be in touch.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, buddy.
All right. See you.
Okay. So Sheldon has been ejected. Sheldon is a big douche.
Yeah. No, I checked it. You got nothing important to say. Right?
Well, I asked you to eject him because, and I can't remember the last thing he said actually off the top of my head, but I hopped over and looked at his page, and he, it was one of those 0 subscribers, no activity, and no information.
Yeah, right.
So and then after what he said, and I looked at his channel, that's why I told you to eject him.
Yeah, he's just an agitator.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if there's anything else that you guys want to chat about. Well, sure.
Where's Amy?
Have you guys lost any views? Like the other day, I've got this running thing with RL, and it's just a sort of a friendly little competition because our channels, our sub count is so close that we play with each other. She was like 60 ahead of me last week, and now I'm only 30 behind. You know what I mean? Because I gained a whole bunch because of our Joseph Farrell and Ole Demigard interviews. I gained a bunch of subs. And,
Right.
So she'll lurch ahead of me, and then I'll lurch forward, and it's like, we're neck and neck. We're getting close. And so her and I in the comment threads, we tease each other and we have fun about, who's winning and how close I'm getting to her and stuff like that. But anyway, the whole reason I brought that up was I was talking to her the other day I said, holy crap, I just noticed that my total view count, I lost 5,000 views.
What?
Really?
Yeah, when you go to your home page and you look at the very top of your, page art, that big picture on your home page where it says subscribers and total view count. Like,
Right.
watch, let me show you real quick. I mean, I can't prove anything, but I can only show you what I'm talking about here. Like, if I just go to my channel, channel. You can do it. There. See, it says 438 right here. Yeah, you got me there?
Yeah. That's
88,746, which is my total views overall. Okay. I'm not lying when I tell you last week it was 90 or 91,000.
Yeah, mine's showing.
And then it dropped down to like 86. Now it's jumped back up over the week or so, a couple thousand. But I'm not kidding you. It was 90,000 plus 91,000. And then it dropped down to like 95 or 85, 86. And look, I'll even show you. Watch. Actually, it's this one right here. I'm going to show you this conversation I had with RL, and this week, it's an ongoing conversation.
Yeah, I'll turn it up.
Come on, computer.
That's fine.
There we go. Scroll. Okay, so, she says PS 422 versus 468. That's her teasing me again. Okay, so she's got 468 and I was 422. But that was a couple of days ago. I'm at 438 now. Anyway, so here we are bantering about that. And here I said, look, where did I say it? I think I said it up here. Here, I just noticed my total view count went down by roughly 5,000 views. Yesterday, it was over 90. Now it's 85-ish. I got 85K. Okay, see that?
Yeah.
So down here, look what she says. You lost about 5,000 views. I lost about 13,000. Guess I win that one. Haha. So, but I mean, have you guys noticed your view counts going down?
No, not really. Mine's still, mine's at 938,000 views.
I've seen YouTube videos where people complain about this. They lose view counts and stuff like that. Something's wrong, big time wrong.
Yeah, no, I've noticed I had about 4,000 maybe 5,000 views, and I'm down to 3,895.
I'm doing it right now. You have 25
So,
minutes.
yeah.
Yeah, because we don't. Hang on a second.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna keep an eye on mine then, because I'm at 930,000.
Yeah, that's fishy. They're messing with a lot of people.
Now, if you go onto your own video, and does that count as a view?
I don't know.
It does. It does. And I know this, you know, when you upload a brand new video and you want to go see it and see how it plays, it automatically counts one right off the bat. And when I was a tiny channel with no subs, so basically nobody was watching my stuff, I could literally watch the view count go up every time I went and watched my own video.
Maybe they're removing those.
And also, let's not forget that every time someone comments on your video and then you go and reply to that comment, you have to go to the video to reply, and therefore it counts as view. And then they come and reply to you, and they have to go to the video to reply, it counts another view.
Oh, maybe it's removing those views.
I'm going to tell you, I don't have to go to my video to reply. And you know why? Because I go to my Google Plus and I get all the notifications on the little bell like it used to be on YouTube.
Yeah, there's two different avenues here.
Oh, okay. Well, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier, but you have to go to your Google Plus. It's annoying in that respect.
Yeah, it is.
So why don't you, Ian, or I'll do it. To get Mike in here, let's say hey to Mike. You guys down with that?
Yeah.
Are you on it, Ian? Are you doing it?
Go ahead.
Let me do it.
Can I take 5 minutes or less?
Sure can, hon.
All right, I'll be back, guys.
It's a slow night.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a really slow night here. It's been chill.
Oh, Mike. Told you, buddy. Told you to fix that, dude. Am I still screen sharing, Ian?
You can't send them a message.
Yeah, I am screen sharing.
Oh, no, we can't have them in here. It's just the way it is.
Where was I? One was here. Hey, Mike, see this right here? Fix this. Channels, videos, home, videos, channels, subscriptions, about. Fix this. Because then I can click your about, and then I can send you the message or the link. Because we're not doing it publicly anymore.
Any other way.
We're not doing that shit publicly anymore. We don't need Private Jan coming in here messing with us.
Private Jan?
Yeah.
Nope, that's the last thing we want.
And if Private Jan manages to slip in while we're chatting with Mike, that'll be the last time, Mike. Because that way I'll know that you gave him the link. If you're in, you get the link. You know what I mean?
Hilarious.
So
Anyway.
So what else you got, Ian? What's going on in the news? Anything important?
Well, there's more of a build-up along Russia right now, but other than that, just a bunch of propaganda, pretty much. More hope hoaxes. There hasn't been a major event though.
So, shall we take bets on when, where, and what we think it's going to be? We should have like a Deadpool. You know that? Have you seen that movie Deadpool?
Yeah, long time.
We should have a Deadpool.
Yeah.
When we could all make bets on when, where, and what we think is going to happen. All right, you guys in the chat who are watching right now, Mike, Zach, anybody else, lay it out. What do you think is going to happen, when, and where? What, when, and where? I'll think about it. Let's say what country?
Well, I always think of that song that goes first. We take Manhattan, then we take Berlin.
Man, look, I know you got a problem with Richie Allen, but I'm going to tell you right now, go over to, when we get done here, if you got time, go over to Richie Allen and listen to the most recent Jordan Maxwell interview.
Oh yeah, I've seen
it'll knock your socks off.
Yeah, I got to listen.
I'm back, and I'll check that out. Richie Allen?
Jordan Maxwell, sure.
Yeah, go check out Richie Allen's most recent interview on Jordan Maxwell, which was just a couple of days ago, I think.
Yeah, I'll do that after.
I mean, it will knock your socks off, especially in context of the conversation we had with Joseph Farrell the other day.
Right.
Because basically, Jordan Maxwell, because look, he's an old man now, and he's poor, right? And he's had a long, hard life. And you can just hear the broken man in his voice. You can hear it. Okay? And I'm suspecting that he is fucking fed up and he doesn't care anymore. And he's starting to let it out. Like, for real. And,
awesome.
And he said, among a whole lot of cool other things, enlightening other things, he said, there's not 10 cents worth difference between Nazism and communism.
That's true.
Well, yeah, because it combines communism and fascism together, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's basically.
The world is run by a Nazi, communist, fascist rule. The entire freaking world.
Yes.
Well, yeah, the Henry Kissinger was just quoted saying the other day, the new international order.
Now, if I can find it, just give me just a moment and I'll find it. I got the book right here. I got Joseph Farrell's book. And if I can find it, what I want to read to you is a passage or two from the very end of this book about a Colonel Jordan, I think it was a colonel, on a military base in Alaska. This is in the 50s. And that he was in charge of this air base. It's an Army Air Force base in Alaska. And we had back then what was known as the Lend-Lease program between America and Russia. Okay?
Right.
And as Jordan Maxwell puts it, and as the research of Dr. Farrell puts it, and as history would have it, that's what we were doing. We were helping Russia in all kind of ways. We were giving them money. We were giving them material. We were giving them nuclear material, enriched uranium. We were giving them technology, right? We were giving them information. We were giving them maps of our infrastructure. Okay? Okay?
Yep.
So this Colonel Jordan on this air base, who was in charge of, the ins and outs, the comings and goings, the cargo, the people, he was told by his superiors in Washington. These particular flights, are not to be inspected. I want you to expedite them. Just get them in and out and keep it quiet. Well, this happened for a long time, and he got a little tired of this, I don't know, the way they were doing things, the way he was being asked to do things.
Mm-hmm.
And he also had a problem. He wrote Washington and complained that he had, they were bringing Russian operatives, military and, I don't know, intelligence into this country. So these planes would go over to Russia, drop off stuff, and they would bring Russians back with them. And then these Russians would hang out on the base for a few days, and then they would literally disappear. They had free reign. They could come and go. They would leave the base and just never come back. Gone. Then this was happening a lot, and that bothered the colonel. So, and these planes that were being loaded with literally pallets and pallets of briefcases. Okay? Imagine pallets and pallets of briefcases being loaded on the planes and funneled off to Russia very quietly. Briefcases. So this was happening regularly. And the colonel was getting a little irritated with the way things were going. This is all in Farrell's book that I just finished reading. So, and Jordan Maxwell mentions this in a cursory way. He mentions Dr. Farrell, his research, and the fact that basically, and I'm getting to the point of the story, that this colonel, these planes were being guarded by Russian soldiers. And the colonel he had enough one day, and he gathered up a handful of, U.S. soldiers, arm your weapons and follow me. And he walked out onto the airfield, and he had his soldiers overtake the two Russian soldiers that were armed guards guarding the plane. And he said, and the quote is, "If they move, plug them." And he went on board with his notebook, and he opened one out of every 3 suitcases, and he discovered maps of our infrastructure. He discovered suitcases full of money. In some cases, he had opened suitcases full of intelligence documents, and he took some quite extensive notes. And in one suitcase, he uncovered that there were plates, and here's the crux of the whole thing. This is the reason I'm talking. Plates, printing plates, currency, printing plates.
When you said printing plates, that's exactly what came to mind. Yeah. Counterfeiting in essence.
And Jordan Maxwell, go listen to Jordan Maxwell's recent interview on Richie Allen, because he elaborates on this whole story. And the story is that we have been financing communism since our inception. That our inception is based on fascism, communism, Nazism, Zionism. It's a system that has these factions that are not so far away from each other, and yet they give off the appearance of being away from each other.
Right.
For the purpose of creating wars and conflict. And I forget the name of the meeting, but Jordan lays it out. He mentions it specifically. He says they even had a meeting to decide which countries would be communist.
Wow.
He said Russia was freaking poor. They couldn't feed their own people. We were sending them clothes, food, money to prop them up so that we could have an enemy.
Wild.
Wow.
And it got to be too difficult to literally give them the cash, because the cash equated to such a large volume. And it got to the point where they were getting caught and exposed. So they said, fuck, we'll just send them the plates. Let them print their own.
Incredible.
So I'm reading about this in Farrell's book, And Jordan Maxwell mentions it the other night on Richie Allen, and he lays it out a little bit better than I did, probably. And I think I made a pretty good case the other night with Farrell on the hook when I was reading a little bit of Myron Fagan talking about the communist infiltration at the highest levels of our government, going back as early as the early 1900s, before 1920, literally.
Yes.
And probably before that.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had Nazi infiltration ever since then as well. And then Paperclip, we brought them over here in droves. We made deals with the intelligence general to keep his entire network in place. And it became the CIA.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Now, Joseph Farrell makes a very good case that there are multiple factions and they're kind of like at war with each other in a mafia style. I suggest that they pretend to be at war with each other.
Yes. Exactly.
And then we go and fight the actual war.
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
because behind the closed door, they are really not at war with each other.
Yeah, well, that just describes World War II right there.
Well, one thing these psychopaths are into, apparently, is human sacrifice. And wars are blood sacrifices of the willing who have signed up and of the innocent in the collateral damage.
Excellent point.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And you're absolutely right. And I think Maxwell touches on that as well.
Awesome. I'm definitely going to have to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, guys.
You don't want to do a little bit of overtime?
I'm getting a little bit.
Well, I'm up for it.
I'm sure.
Well, I just didn't want to shut it down right in the middle of a good conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever it takes, a few minutes or whatever. I was kind of hoping to touch on this a little bit earlier. Sorry about my audio problems. But it is what it is. Life isn't perfect.
By.
It's live talk show. Anything can happen. So
that's true.
So what did Mike say here? John Stockwell is someone I should check out. He was the CIA station chief during the Angola operation. He exposed everything they have been up to. All right, Mike, let me say this. In a way, you're right, and in a way, I would caution you, because I have listened to several CIA whistleblowers, insiders, ex-CIA whistleblowers, and I had an epiphany, and I'm not going to lie to you, I had it today, because on my way home from this job, it's an hour-and-a-half ride. What do you think I'm doing? I'm listening to interviews, and I'll even tell you the guy's name if you give me a moment, but I was listening to an interview where they were interviewing this ex-CIA guy who was spouting such freaking nonsense, and he sounded like he knew what he was talking about. But I'm getting all kind of red flags throughout this conversation, and I'm thinking to myself, and here's my epiphany. We should not trust CIA whistleblowers.
Ever.
I know, because they've already sworn an oath that they won't say anything.
There is nothing about the CIA that is trustworthy from our point of view.
Yeah, because they'd be risking committing treason and stuff. So I don't really believe them. I believe they're just controlled opposition.
That's right.
Yes.
I believe so as well.
because they can't come out and say stuff, or else they'll be
They'll be checking out, man.
yeah, they'll be arrested or killed.
Yep.
They swear and sign oaths when they sign up for the CIA.
Right.
It's like the mafia. When you're in, you're in. You don't get out.
Yeah, I always wondered that about these guests on Alex Jones, like Steve Pachenik, and who is that?
The CIA is not like working at McDonald's. You don't just quit and go home.
Yeah.
No.
What is it? Once a company man, always a company man.
That's right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yes,
it's like
indeed.
you can't get out once you sign in. You're in.
Yep. You
know too much.
Sell your soul.
If you know too much, they can't afford to let you go out there with that knowledge too, right? So.
And if people had any idea how many CIA agents are millionaires,
gee, how'd they get that out?
Okay, so there's another little, what's the word for it? You know, drop of information.
A gem.
There's a sprinkle.
Another little gem.
Gem. There's a little gem for you right there. If you knew how many CIA agents were millionaires, it would. There's another eye opener for you. Go look into it.
Yep.
So this guy giving the interview, he says, "Look, I didn't join the CIA to be a millionaire. I joined to serve my country. Blah blah blah." So that sounds credible, right? So you're listening to him. Yeah, well, if you're paying attention to what he's saying outside of that, it's not adding up. There's some serious flaws from a guy who talks fast like he knows what he's talking about and is supposed to come from the inside. And the shit he's peddling is just no.
Yeah.
I'd have to pick through the interview and listen to it with you to go specific. But, you know, I'm just telling you what I heard and what I think.
COINTEL.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Bo Grits was COINTEL.
Yeah. Bo Grits.
I wouldn't be a tiny bit surprised if Admiral Byrd was COINTEL.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Alan Watts exposed Bo Grits? Cool. That's good to know because I loves me some Alan Watts. Don't be saying Alan Watts is a shill. You'll be ejected. Don't go there. I love me some Alan Watts. Well, I guess I don't need to find that passage in the book. I was able to remember enough of it.
Yeah.
And then Jordan Maxwell actually referenced, if you pay attention, he referenced that aspect. He said, look, we were sending them money in, suitcases, and they were, it just got to be too risky to send piles of cash. And so they just decided to send them the plates. And then a moment or so later, he references Dr. Farrell's work. He says, go read Joseph Farrell. Blah, blah, blah. I forget how he said it, but he referenced Farrell, and he referenced the plates, and he referenced giving money to Russia and then giving the plates to Russia.
Wow.
Oh, and you know what? Have you guys seen the movie, recent George Clooney, called Hail Caesar?
I haven't seen any movies for a decade and more.
Okay, well.
No, I haven't seen it.
No, you haven't seen it? Okay, check it out. Here's the gist. Hail Caesar it's a movie made, I forget the setting exactly, but it's like 1940s. Maybe early 1940s, maybe 1950s, okay? It's around there. McCarthy era, communist infiltration, blah, blah, blah. But the movie is about Hollywood. George Clooney is playing a Caesar character in a B movie, 1950s style, you know, cheap ass. And the movie centers around Josh Brolin's character, who is basically the studio manager. George Clooney's character, the actor, he's an actor in the movie. He gets abducted. They knock him out, they drug him, they kidnap him, they take him to a beach house. He wakes up and there's a room full of men having a chat. They're smoking, they're eating sandwiches and drinking and just having a conversation. And he walks in, he's all confused, and they start talking to him about all this communist ideology. And there's a voiceover in the movie who says, and whatever his name is, so-and-so finds himself in the hands of communists. Right? Like the voiceover doesn't even, makes it, there's no ambiguity is what I'm trying to tell you. The movie makes it clear as hell. So this group of communists who were having their study group or whatever, he starts falling for it, and they're talking to him about all these different concepts and ideologies and injustices, and that's how they frame it. There's another character, and I can't remember the guy's name. He's a young, very famous, up and coming, beefcake kind of a guy, and I can't remember his damn name right now. Turns out he's an actor in the movie as well. He's another actor on another studio, on another movie, and turns out he is full-blown communist. And at the end of the movie, he literally goes out in the middle of the damn water. They take a little rowboat and they meet up with a fucking Russian submarine, and he jumps on board and off he goes with the ransom money that they gained from kidnapping George Clooney's character. But the point is, I'm reading this Myron Fagan, and I read this a couple of years ago, and Myron Fagan was a Hollywood producer and director from the late 20s to the mid 40s, and he exposed the communist infiltration of Hollywood, and that's the title of the pamphlet I'm looking at, sitting right here on my desk. It says how Hollywood is brainwashing the people, and it's about the communist infiltration of Hollywood going back to the early 20s.
Wow.
Yeah. It's definitely all of it's communist. We were talking about earlier in the show, the Agenda 21. It's communist.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It all ties up to one thing, right? Communist fascism and crony capitalism.
Yep. See, that's why we really need to stop consenting to anybody being our leaders. I lead myself. Thank you.
Money could work if it wasn't charged at interest.
Well, not really, because you still have
We wouldn't be in
profiteering.
massive debt, and then there wouldn't be austerity. Right?
But the
If money was
thing is, you'd still have profiteering. You would still promote psychopaths who would bribe and set up blackmail scenarios to get what they want. You would still have planned obsolescence. There's all kinds of ills that have nothing to do with the interest charging on the monies.
Well, if you think of it as a pyramid, right? There's a top down that's feeding all the other corporations to become more powerful than others, and then the corruption arrives.
Mm.
With not paying taxes, and they get away with not having the same regulations imposed, things like that.
Well,
So
even
these
still,
companies become boastful, and then they take advantage of it, right?
it promotes the psychopaths. because the psychopaths will do anything.
Right.
And I do
We've
mean
all
anything to get money, which always, no matter
dawn
whether there's interest or not, the people with the money have power over the people who don't.
Yeah, well, exactly.
And so just taking away the interest, that will solve the debt problem, but it's not going to solve for all of the other ills that money systems create.
Right. But you need something to barter.
No, you don't. Not if we have robots doing all the work that nobody wants to do, and we work with a social currency, i.e. doing what you love to do because you enjoy it and you get the social currency of reputation, of lauds, of fame, of thanks, of appreciation, of love for you for what you do. Okay? Nobody has to, people can choose to be couch potatoes, but they're not going to develop a whole lot of social currency. And to be fair, most couch potatoes are couch potatoes because they can't afford to do what they want to do.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And if you have people with the capability of doing, basically giving everybody what the useless eliters have, the leisure and industry of interest, you will find that people, and one thing that we're very, very good at, we are, in fact, it is one of our seed parameters, we are problem solvers. And if you have your governance based on solving problems rather than passing laws and telling people what they may and may not do outside the 3 laws of ethics, and you don't have any money, which turns out to remove virtually all motive to break the 3 laws of ethics, there's really no point to doing any law breaking if you don't have money, out of those 3 laws. And then you get rid of commerce, which means you get rid of every law on the books except those that are founded in the 3 laws of ethics. And then you don't really need them because you've got the 3 laws of ethics.
Yeah.
And that is why, I feel it is vital that we start governing ourselves based on solving problems and not passing laws and then having to have somebody with power over others to enforce.
Hey, Ian, you see the private chat we have here?
Yeah. Hold on a second.
All right.
I cannot eject that guy.
What? All right, well, you guys want to hear a little bit of Jordan Maxwell before we close out tonight?
Sure.
This is amazing stuff. Jordan is the best, and one of these days I really hope to get him on here because he's getting up there in his years. And I don't know how much he's got left in him.
I've sent him 2 emails.
Yeah, hopefully they go through. Sometimes your emails wind up in people's spam boxes, and I know you know that. But we won't get into that. All right, let's. I'm going to play a little bit of Jordan Maxwell for a few minutes, and then we'll discuss for a moment after that and see where we go. We're already in overtime, but check this out. This is amazing.
Well, I'll just give you my opinion. First of all, America has for many, many years, since the assassination of John Kennedy back in '63, America has been going down the road of Marxist-Leninism And we have become a Marxist-Leninist Soviet communist state in America. I know what I'm talking about because I've been studying this stuff for over 60 years. And America has slowly but surely been, when children are born, they don't know what's going on. And so the schools teach them Marxism, Leninism, socialism, and little by little, as the children grow up, they have children. And the schools are still teaching them Marxist, Leninist, Soviet, communist bullshit. And eventually, eventually you've got a nation filled with people who do not know anything about Marxist, Leninist, Soviet communism at all, but they are right in the middle of it, and they are believing it. America up until this election was a purely Soviet, communist, Marxist, Leninist, fascist police state, and it was leading the whole world down the toilet to fascism and Nazism, communism, all of the isms which are destroying the human family, destroying the human integrity of the human being. And so when I saw, I've been looking at this for many years, watching the destruction of my country and Europe and all the.
Sorry, Richie Allen has commercials.
We've done Europe.
All the beautiful places on earth that are being destroyed by this Marxist-Leninist philosophy. And now I begin to see that the world has had enough of this bullshit of Marxism. They finally had enough of it, and in America, and are now beginning to wake up to what's really been going on here. And so I know that communism, I've known this for years, communism and Marxism is not going to work. It never has worked, because I know two communists, and they don't work. And so when I see this whole nation slowly but surely sucking in and falling under the influence of the Marxist-Leninist Soviet communist thinking and philosophy, it is no wonder that when someone in the States actually stands up and says that they are for America, they're for American people, they are for freedom, liberty, and justice, and for the principles of our country. Enormous response from the Nazi, fascist, Soviet, communist philosophy that has guided this country for so many decades. Naturally, the people are going to be in the streets because they have been fed this Nazi, fascist philosophy of communism, Marxism, and make no mistake about it, there is not 10 cents worth of difference between fascism, Marxism, or communism, Nazism. It's all a socialist view, a world view, where the human being has no standing whatsoever. You as an individual have no individuality whatsoever. You are nothing more than a member of the state, of the gang, and you don't count. And then when I and when I see that the people fall into this falling for this Marxist philosophy, it's because they do not realize, they don't know, they've not done their homework, they haven't got some 75, 76 years of life. Most of them are young people who do not know what the history of Europe is, the history of America is, the history of the human race. So, I know that the reason why Marxism was able to get a hold in Russia and become the dominant political philosophy of the Soviet Union, it's quite simply the reason why it became so popular in Russia and China is because the Americans in the British banking, the American bankers, British bankers financed the communist movement.
Yeah, that-
Marxism and Soviet communism was financed. The money came from America to pay to overthrow the Tsar. The money came from all the big corporations in America, all the major banks, all the major industrial powers in America put their money and their power behind the Soviet communist movement because, and we know this for a fact, that when the Soviet communist movement was first starting in Russia, they were broke. They couldn't even feed themselves. They had no money to pay armies. And so what little bit of money that they had been given by the Americans at the first and by European banks, they spent that on themselves. And so they were actually in very big trouble. They were trying to overthrow the Tsar and overthrow the Russian government and bring about a world totalitarian dictatorship of communism. But they were running out of money. Money, the bottom line. You can't do anything without money. And that was the one thing the Communist Party didn't have. And so, therefore, American bankers, American traders, people who were very wealthy people in banking and industry, started sending money quietly over to Russia to help feed and clothe the Communist Party. And that's why it became so powerful, because of American money. As a matter of fact, one of the largest single truck and automobile and truck plants in the world, the largest single truck plant in the world is called the Kama River Project. Kama River Project in about 25 miles north of Moscow. It was built by General Motors, Ford Motor Company, General Electric, all of the major big corporations in America and Europe and in England especially were financing, building the half-tracks and tanks, and Chrysler was building all the military machines for the Soviet communist movement. So all this is people don't realize and don't know. The whole of the Soviet Union and the whole of communist China is financed by America. Americans are financing it, sending it money. We send food over to the starving people in the communist countries. We're sending food to North Korea, to Cuba. We're sending money and food to why? Because the United States and England together are the most powerful military industrial complex on the damn earth, period. And there is no comparison. So in order to have a military, you've got to have an enemy to justify a military. And since there is...
All right.
Yeah.
This is an hour and 12-minute interview.
Yeah, I'm going to listen to that.
I could let that go and go.
Yeah. Well, hey guys, it's been a nice chill night tonight, relaxing. I can hear myself.
Yeah, we're getting lots of echo.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if Dr. Farrell his assessment is maybe it's not accurate regarding the world plan, the overall one plan. Of course, there are factions and everybody vies for their own interests to a certain level.
Yes.
But when you reach a certain level, you understand the game, and you either play that game or, they take you out of the game.
Well, you may recall I asked the question whether there wasn't somebody at the top,
right,
playing them off too. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. It's all just different factions that are being led by one central thing.
Yep. Because the evidence seems to suggest to me that that's exactly what's going on.
But they use the same playbook, right?
Oh yeah.
So,
Well,
You just have
look,
to look at China.
I'll just throw
The
this
states of the
out.
world.
When I was a teenager, decades before I was ever into any of this research, even considering conspiracy, I was a teenager, man. And I was nowhere near any of this stuff. I remember a conversation where, forget who I was talking to, it might have been my older brother. And he said to me, this is back in the 80s, okay, Cold War era.
Mm-hmm.
He was telling me that they're both pretending to be enemies of each other so that they can both go home and tell their people, we have an enemy, we have to mobilize, we need your money, we need your army, we need your kids, send them off to the army, we need to bolster our army, we need guns and ammo, and we need people making suits and armor, the whole thing, right?
Right.
So they both, Reagan and was it Gorbachev, they had their meetings and then they would go home and they would tell their people individually, these guys are bad. Oh, these guys are bad.
Right.
So it was a game.
Oh yeah. And meanwhile, they're sacrificing us in their wars.
And then they come out in the media and they tell us, well, we had a meeting, we settled our differences, and I put my foot down and he backed down, and I'm the good guy this time. Or he's the bad guy, he's the good guy. Like right now, what do you guys, okay, check this out. All right. I know you're asking, you guys are looking to get out of here, but all right, check this out. What do you guys really truly think about this meme that we've all been pelted with, that no one's talking about? The meme of the Russians are good, right? Because look, what have we seen lately in the news? The Russians are showing up and they're kicking Al-Qaeda's ass. They're kicking ISIS's ass.
Yeah, right.
We've heard the reports. America can't do shit. Russia shows up and they knock out ISIS in 3 days. We've heard all that. We've talked about it.
I'm not really sure where they're going with it, but I know it's manufactured.
Well, you know what I'm talking about, right? There's lots and lots and lots of stuff in the news that is making Russia look really awesome.
Yep.
Like, these guys are doing it right. Oh, they're very look, they had a fighter taken down by Turkish anti-aircraft, and they're very restrained. They don't jump the gun. They're smart, and they're tactic, and they're awesome, and look, he didn't react, and how awesome are they? And this whole idea that lately we've been pelted from all kind of angles how awesome Russia is, right?
Yep.
Well, they're blaming it for bombing hospitals and stuff too, though. Remember, they blamed Russia for bombing a hospital, and that actually wasn't that at all.
Well, we know the news is fake, but what I'm trying to tell you is that what we're being told by the fake news is that Russia is awesome.
Yep.
You need an enemy. Right? They have to justify in people's minds that, oh, we've got to build a bigger army now.
Could be that, but I think there's more to it than just that. Consider
they need public support, right? So that's
but consider. I think perhaps what they're trying to do is go for a joint effort with us and Russia against China, because they are kind of poking China into things here and there. And if it comes down to, China's attacking Russia, we've got to go help them because, gosh, they're awesome. It could be that. It's just throwing ideas out because, like I say, I don't really know for sure where they're going with that. But they're certainly going. No question on that.
Oh, hey guys, I'm going to cut out. So,
All right. Well, sleep
thanks
well.
everybody in the chat for being here.
See you next week. Same bat time and all of that.
Aaron, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Hey, man. So, you guys going to continue on?
Well, you're hosting, so I think when you shut it down, we're done.
Oh, okay. We can still hang in the chat, right?
I'll tell you what, I'll hang around and we'll talk to Amy for another minute. But I mean, if you need to get out of here, you want to close it out? Amy, are you done?
I don't have anything specific to say. I think I've said pretty much everything for the night.
Okay, well, we're 27 minutes into overtime, so.
Yep.
10:30 for me and Amy, so how about we call it out? Thanks everybody for hanging out.
Thank you, everybody.
Hope we'll see you next week, except for one or two of you. And you know who you are.
Oh, they know who they are.
Oh, damn.
Oh, damn it.
Okay, well, I love you guys. I guess I'm going to go ahead and hang up and call it a night.
Okay, guys.
Bye.
You want to
Okay, guys. See you all next week. Love you all.
No answer.